To the rhythm of the violent breeze. To the rhythm of the violent breeze. All things moving closer to the rhythm of the violent breeze. Violent breeze. Violent breeze. To the rhythm of the violent breeze. To the rhythm of the violent breeze.
Isn't it right? Every time you phone me and you tell me that you want me by your side. Isn't it cool? Every time you call me and I feel that I'm gonna be there by your side. You tell me that you want want me to be with you every day and every night. And you keep telling me exactly what I wanna hear. Oh yeah, baby, I want you. I will always promise you 1,000,000 sweetest nights. You bring me light and I'm blinded when you shine. You're my light, sweetest candy in the night. Love me, baby. 1,000,000 sweetest nights. You're my sweetest love. The night is so good. You give me love, and I don't feel alone. 'Cause every time you phone me, you tell me that you want me. And oh yeah, baby, you make me so happy. I wanna be by your side. Isn't it right? Every time you phone me and you tell me that you want me by your side. Isn't it cool? Every time you call me and I feel that I'm gonna be there by your side. You tell me that.
Oh wait, first. Ooh. I think that for our session,
Sweetest night.
is it Eager or Iger?
Iger.
Iger, okay.
Puts Okay. All right, everyone, thank you for coming to the first session bright and early. You're all like very dedicated for being here and we love you for it. So today we're lucky enough to have Mary Maller and Louise Brandau. And today we'll be talking about educational challenges in the ever-evolving space of zero knowledge. So please welcome them.
Hi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So this talk is going to be split into two parts. The first part is going to be given by myself and the second part by Luis. First, I'm going to be talking about some recent zero knowledge developments. And when I say recent, I really mean like the past year. And after that, Luis is going to talk about how this is quite a challenge for us at Zcon4. So first, I'm going to start just by motivating zero knowledge a little bit, giving some applications outside of anonymous cryptocurrencies. I know that's very scary. Talk a bit about the speed at which it's evolving, and yeah, some recent advances. So I would say that there's quite a lot of applications which we're seeing startups and companies building zero knowledge in order to actually use. Some of the more fun ones I've sort of got in the slides here. Certainly one that's like quite cool is people have been trying to fight, well, fake news really, with images. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, if this image has been taken on this camera, then it should have a signature, like a digital signature that is like a hardware thing that you wouldn't be able to forge. But then if you want to actually like make edits to that photo, maybe you want to compress the size of it so that it actually fits in a news article or something like that. This is work of Dan Bonet, by the way. Then you would need to, you would lose the signature. It would no longer verify with respect to the image you're actually showing people, but it would still be valid. And people have been there like, you could use snarks for this. You can, okay, it's not so much the zero knowledge part of the snark as the soundness part of the snark here, but you can prove that actually you've done only allowed edits to this real image, and then you would be able to, for example, compress in order to fit things in a smaller format. In terms of like the timeline of what process we've been going through in order to get zero knowledge to the place where it is today, obviously I haven't included everything that's important on this timeline, but I have included sort of some things which I think are pretty relevant, absolutely including the very first GMR paper, which actually invented zero knowledge as a concept back in 1989. And during the 90s, I would say there was more of an effort to define the notions that we were working with, sort of say, do we want public verifiability? Can we use a common reference string if we want to have something that's non-interactive? What is a PCP? People were like getting these notions, getting them ready, so to speak. In the 2000s, a lot of things were pairing-based. People sort of realized that pairings were amazing for cryptography, and that sort of really culminated in lots and lots of schemes.
Hello.
Probably
Buenos
one of
días.
the most important, I would
Good
say,
morning,
being
everybody.
Grot 10.
So
No,
today
you wouldn't
we
use this
have
nowadays. It's
our
really slow.
friend Luca
But
from
it
Iger,
is probably the
who's going
first
to,
modern snark in the sense it's the
talk
first
about
thing
the
that
Zcash
was
Uni FFI
really,
library.
really tiny.
So welcome, Luca, and all right, I'll leave you to it.
Thanks. So, hi, I'm Luca. I work at Iger, and I'm here to talk about the Zcash Unify library. This project was financed on behalf of the community by the Zcash Grant Committee. And prior to working at Iger, I mainly did backend development with functional languages. And once at Iger, I had the opportunity to do more blockchain development and research, and I'm very happy and thankful for that. I want to showcase our work and advertise it and increase its visibility a bit among the community. I'm delighted to be here in Barcelona with you all, as we talked and we interacted. It was really nice. And I'm eager to answer any question you might have in this presentation or afterwards in the corridors, so on. So I have a question for you all. I assume most of us are programmers or no programming ethos. We know that the benefits of learning different languages. Each language teaches us new techniques, new ways of thinking, and different approaches to a problem. But what about the benefits of having libraries available in one language? For example, Node was revolutionary because it let programmers with a deep knowledge of JavaScript with backend applications write backend applications. Before Node, this was impossible, and this resulted in a lot of programmers being cut out of this particular domain. Sharing knowledge and collaborating on various technologies is, of course, how we innovate them. And I want to share how this is possible using one language that you may already know in place of learning a new one, Rust. So first I wanted to present Iger, my company. It's called after the Iger mountain. In fact, the logo is kind of a mountain. The Eiger is one of the 3 mountains in a permanent glacier in Switzerland. Very beautiful sceneries, been there. So Eiger helps leading blockchain technologies to scale, and it does so by helping with the development of their core technologies. And a part of it is providing a dedicated team of experts in pretty much all areas of Web3 development. So first, some overview. In this, I will first start with the introduction, a bit what is Unify, what is Libra Zcash, a bit about the implementation, how did we do with the code itself, and some tooling. So because the RFP didn't include only code, but it has also, we also had some bunch of automatizations done in the meantime. Introduction. In this segment, also 3 parts. Who worked on the library? Were the people involved? What is Unify precisely? And what is Libra Zcash? So some of you still don't know, so it's good for the following to introduce it. So this is the team that did the whole work. This is screenshot directly from GitHub, as many of you can recognize the interface. It's Eloy, Daniel, Łukasz. They are the programmers, and I was part of the team too, of course, but I helped mostly with planning, the development, sharing knowledge about Zcash, as I was the main author of the grant proposal that went to Zcash, to the ZCG. So, the relevant tools for us in Zcash are Zcash-D, the first node implementation built by the ECC, mainly by the ECC, and which was written in C++, C, and other languages. Zebra, the Zcash Foundation response to Zcash-D, their node implementation, which you might have heard of in the previous presentations. But meanwhile, represented by the heart, because we love it, the ECC was busy building a library a bit more modularized in a more modern language called Rust. And it's a collection of, it's not one library, it's actually a collection of libraries called crates in Rust. And they are all doing something for building various stuff for Zcash, for the blockchain. The most important example is, for example, a wallet. So so what's the issue then with Libra Zcash? So what are we building? What's the problem we are solving? Well, if you wanted to build a wallet or a light client, you would need to use Libra Zcash crate, one of them, or many of them, which implements some common parts like address encoding and key handling. But what if you know another language and wanted to build something for Zcash? You would need to know Rust, and so learn a new language system, do some system programming, which is memory management, which is not something you do overnight. So this is the problem we set out to solve in our grant proposal, to make it possible to build on Zcash for a wider array of developers. So presenting Mozilla, this is the next component of our work. And to describe it in its creator words, Unify is a tool that automatically generates foreign language bindings targeting Rust libraries, which I think is the best sentence that summarizes it. It is a library being built and maintained by the Mozilla Foundation, and it is constantly changing, and it's still under heavy development, so it is also relatively young. It is so wonderfully crafted, though, that it adapts to other projects completely unrelated to Mozilla. Yes, in very, very simple words, it takes a Rust library, it takes a Rust code base, we write a set of specification with that, which I will present. And then you will find generated libraries in other languages. Which are these languages? So why Unify? Because there are other tools, actually, which are similar. So you may then ask, aren't other tools out there that do the same thing? So the whole point of our work was to improve the accessibility of the ecosystem, translating the Rust libraries into libraries for 4 other languages, Ruby, Python, Kotlin, and Swift. The maintenance effort is considerably contained, but we assume this drawback because it is outweighed by all the benefits that it takes. So the specification is written in UDL, which has a lot of in-place conventions, and it really constrains the development. So it's kind of easier to follow with it, to build with it, actually. There is an expert team behind it, Mozilla, so we know that it will be also in the future maintained, and we can be sure that there will be still a tool like in 3 or 4 years. And another good plus is that there are already 4 bindings included in the library, plus 2 other languages, which at the moment, to my knowledge, are the only other 2 backends. They are built by NordVPN, and they have built C# and Go binding. So you can write a Rust library and have 6 libraries generated out of that code. There are some other competitor tools like what is called Interoctopus and Diplomat, but Unify is the one that is most developed, and it has a lot of benefits compared to them. So some details of the implementation. We strive to motivate all of our choices and document all of them in writing. You may find a lot of discussions on our past GitHub issues correlated with a lot of documentation. And if you dig in our issues, you will find a lot of details on the development process, all the discussions, all the decisions we made. We made it all public. We managed to complete all the features which we could possibly implement, and plus some side tooling which helped automate several tasks, and which is in the 3rd segment mostly. So features, what did we implement actually in concretely? We had to choose what to implement at this stage because Libra Zcash was already quite big and we couldn't possibly do everything. So we decided to fit the most important parts from a functional point of view. So we decided to put inline documentation so that you write it once in the Rust library, and then you will have it exported to all other libraries in their own documentation template. So then you can, for example, automatically generate the documentation in each language ecosystem. There are Docker and Nix images so that you don't have to install a lot of stuff just to develop, but just build Docker and go forward with the development. So from the point of view of the code base, keys handling. So you can generate private keys, you can generate secrets keys, you can derive from there. There is the HD derivation, and there is also support for unified addresses. You can parse, validate, and derive addresses. So you can do a lot of handling with that at the moment. And there is transaction management, which was the hardest part, which lets you build, sign, and validate transactions. Also, there is a lot of tutorials which were complete with like use cases. There are like single line snippets. They are very detailed, and we tried not to leave anything to imagination or to not leave anything to imagination and to case. So everything should be very, very straightforward once reading tutorials. So one of the points we were really focused on was the equivalence between languages. So this was a point that was, of course, very, very, very important. So how do you know that the Rust code will give us the same values that the other libraries give us? Because this was completely unknown. Like, of course, you can trust compilers to do the right job, but you really have to test that, and you really need to be sure that the libraries, for example, generate the same addresses, which I think is quite important. In an effort to avoid such a situation, we created a system to ensure that every single byte generated by the foreign interfaces is in the right place. So doing the testing, there is a routine, a subroutine that starts before testing, which is all the Rust code that are tested in Kotlin, Ruby, and so on are run, and the results are saved on a key value store. And on the foreign binding test side, when they have to take fixtures to assert equivalence, they take these byte encoded values from the key value store, ensuring that everything is locked in and every single byte is in the right place. So how does UniFFI work and how UDL language works? So as you can see, the languages are relatively similar in, so you can understand what's going on here. The tool will not try, in fact, to export the Rust code directly, because it's not like you have the whole library, you just execute something on a terminal, bam, you have 4 libraries. You have to write a specification file in UDL, which actually tells the compiler and tells us also after what did we export precisely and what are the types used. And basically UDL is standardizing all the foreign language libraries. So UDL stands for UniFFI definition language, and it is a direct derivative from WebIDL, which has been used by Mozilla for quite some time, like a lot of time. In fact, I think they use it in Firefox, for example, to define APIs, several APIs like WebGL and JavaScript and all the other libraries used in JavaScript, for example. And there are several limitations, though. For example, every single, like a repository is always corresponding to a namespace. So you have to fit everything you want in one namespace, which isn't pretty, but we found a way around it. There isn't an import keyword, and that means you have to fit everything so you cannot have like 2 namespaces, one namespace on another library and just like import it. It doesn't work like that. You have to redefine all the types on the same namespace. And there aren't, for example, so there is no dependencies, there are no foreign language, there are no functional languages or object-oriented modern features. It's very, very imperative, let's say, is very definitional. And there is support for custom types or for external types, but that is only for Kotlin and Swift and not for all languages at the moment. So also the UniFFI allowed types. So as you can see, they're pretty similar, so it's easy to understand actually what is what. So these are the natively supported ones. As I said, if you want to have custom or external types, you can't, let's say, if you want all 4 languages. Yeah, but I think that most of them are just used in everyday library, and if you want to create a type you can well use, you can do hacks, and you can do some workarounds and find a way to do that. So to go about more technically, in Unify, one very important central concept is lifting and lowering. So, and it's a passage of arguments between domains, because of course you have to bridge between Rust types and Kotlin types and Ruby types and so on. They are not defined all the same, and we have to find a very strict way of going back and forth with them. So let's imagine, for example, we are calling this function here, and we are passing two arguments. Those arguments are then lowered by the FFI layer here, in this, for example, this. And each of these struct is defined. So this FFI converter type is defined together with this. They are all boilerplates. Then lifted again for use in the target Rust function. The Rust function executes, Rust result from the Rust function returns. It is lowered for the FFI layer. It is lifted to the target language binding, and it is returned here. So it's a pretty nice mechanism, I think. This functionality is used for all data structures, and they are all the boilerplates are cloned for every structure. So there is a lot of everything is explicit, which is both well, it's hard to find stuff if you have a large library, but also it's very good because there is nothing hidden. There is no hidden magic, and it's like easier to debug if you have problems. Honestly, we didn't have with that. It works very well. So also, for example, as you can see, this encode extended spending key, it uses the Kotlin standards, because in Rust, for example, you prefer to write in snake case, and in Kotlin you have camel case. So every language is then written with their own language standard in mind. And they have all, just a small detail, they have all an ID. So it's also kind of easier to search when you need to find a function very quickly. So some remarks about the above. You need to get used to it because it's not very standard, but after everything is said and done, it is quite pretty, and it feels like it leaves a lot of control to the user. There are limitations on the language features we can use, so we have to adapt and think a bit differently. We cannot export the architecture. That means that it's very hard to keep the same structure in every language. It's almost impossible. So you have to be a bit flexible. At the moment, the 4 languages I mentioned, they are all included in the main library, but in the future, they will be everything external, so only the core library will be maintained. And I think it would be amazing to see this tool more used in the blockchain space, because I think it's really helpful, and it's more inclusive for a lot more developers. For example, data analysts use mostly Python, and they're not programmers, so they use Python because it's easy. And if more libraries use this tool, there will be more, I think it will be much more accessible for a lot more communities. So the Rust libraries will be much more accessible for other communities. And as in the blockchain space, Rust is used a lot. They're addressing this to it mostly. Everything is still under heavy development, so it can only get better, of course, with time and so on. So tooling, the third segment. In this section, I will tell more about what we implemented apart from code and apart from the library. So what are the procedures we implemented? What are the automatization tools that were used to arrive where we are? I have to anticipate, I'm very proud to say that we created also a CLI tool, which actually eases the life of a developer and with automatizing stuff in a very easy way. So we strive to use the development time to make the library not only what was envisioned in the original RFP, but also to improve the automatization of certain processes inside UniFFI itself. So even these tools can be used even without Zcash, but for any other libraries we want to bridge. So we have some of the following CI procedures as generating bindings and shared libraries. You can publish documentation to their respective pages, to their respective ecosystems. You can generate package and you can publish package to each language registry just by executing the CLI and of course doing some configuration before. But it's everything very automatic and it really removes a lot of baggage, a lot of bureaucracy from the process. And of course, package generation, which is, of course, building and testing, it's also included. So it was very easy to just send it to the CI and let it do all the repetitive things. So we built the CLI in a way as to pack and publish the generate bindings automatically. The CLI provides a multi-stage build and packaging process that intends to help developers in debugging scenarios. It helps with the local bindings build. It helps with publishing, and it generates docs as well. So it's also, this is another point. So in the CI, we don't use much GitHub Actions native functions. We use a lot of Rust functions, which we use to concentrate. So the Rust, the GitHub Actions, the CI that I show here, they use 95% of the directories executed here. They all come from the Rust code base. So they're very customizable and it's everything very controlled. So yeah, everything looks cool, but so how can you try it out? So the first version of the libraries may be found already on GitHub. I didn't use QR codes because then I thought it would be much easier to just download the presentation and click on them. The Swift may be used with the through Xcode very easily. You just enter in the package manager and then just paste the URL. The Python library may be downloaded with pip. The Ruby may be installed easily as a gem. And Kotlin, as well as through Maven or Gradle, it's very easy, of course, to include in the dependency file and just use it in the development. So side projects, some features were experiments or additions that can give benefits to all other potential users of the library. So the inline docs generation was, in fact, we needed to make a hard fork of the Unify library. So we are still working on possibly merging with the upstream library and then have just one library, of course, because it's better to have it included. We tested also with Elixir bindings using Rustler. The UDL split management means that, as I said before, the UDL file, to use it, you need to have one big giant spec file. We didn't want that. So we included also a subroutine that actually uses all the UDL files we wrote because everything is very compartmentalized. And before compiling, before going into UniFFI engine, all the UDL files we generated, they're merged into a single one, and they're sent to compilation. Support for Apple Silicon, which was not originally included in the grant proposal, but we decided it's, of course, a good idea to include it. And a complete CLI to use in the tasks after development. So conclusion, UniFFI is quite powerful, but still has a lot of rough edges. So as I said before, it's a bit hard, but you can get used to it, I think, in a couple of weeks. UniFFI is a good place to start for multi-language SDKs. So I want to emphasize, is a good place to start. So it's of course, the performances are not great, but if you want to give access immediate to some more ecosystems, it's a good idea to use it. It is still evolving, so it's a rich field for contribution. I encourage people to read what is UniFFI and maybe to contribute a bit more so that it grows more easily. Libra's Zcash as well is still being expanded with other features. So future patches will be needed, and we hope that we'll be able to also work on it and to be included in the future decisional process. And one last thing, I think that UniFi is about creating a more inclusive environment where we need one major language to write for most ecosystems. So, questions? Yes.
Thank you, Luca. Big applause to him. All right, we have 2 questions. The first one is there something you don't like about UniFFI or UniFi?
Is there something I don't like? I think what I don't like is that it doesn't, so it has support for basic things, but of course a lot of features are missing. So for example, concurrency is still a bit hard. So another thing I didn't mention, for example, is that of course everything is, so memory management is still a very, very, I think, sore point, and it needs much more work. Because, for example, when you use structs in Rust, you have to wrap them with arc, and that means that Rust delegates the memory management to something else. So it's there for advanced development is very not suitable at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And another question is, do you have advice to people wanting to use UniFi to create bindings?
So an advice. I think that well, the first thing is that you start with from like a hello world example, and then you try to generate bindings for that. And there is a manual on UniFFI, so just search UniFFI manual on Google, and it will be very easy to find. And there, everything is step by step, and that helped us a lot. There are sections also on internals to understand how it works internally, as some of the things I explained, like lifting and lowering. And be very patient, because the tests are not that fast. Yes, another thing I don't like is the test, because when you, at some point when we were writing tests, I think each suite could take, because before we optimize it a bit, each suite of tests, so for each language, it took like 30 minutes. So it's like 2 hours of testing. It's a bit too much.
All right. There are no more questions from the public, but I do have a question.
Yes.
Are there any features or things that were not in the original RFP that you would like to implement in the future?
Well, for example, we would like to include synchronization in the future, and that were not present. It's hard to say, because there are a few features that, for example, they were included in the original RFP, and we couldn't implement because they didn't exist in Libra's Zcash. So yeah, I think there are some things still that we would like to implement, and can't say now which ones, so I cannot name them. But yeah, there's some other stuff. Just I don't remember. There's some other stuff we wanted to do, but otherwise the grant would be like too large then, if we went to include also them.
All right. There are no more questions from the audience. I don't have any more questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Luca, and all your team from Iger.
Yeah. Yes, maybe I can send you a link. If you give me some mail address. It's good to be safe. What a strange big sensation to feel lost. Tears roll down this sad old face. Sometimes you fall in a hole. But after the rain clouds bring me home, everything's a chance to have you grow. After the storm, you have to make it. You can have it done. You will have it done. Sun is shining through, the seas is sparkling. The rainbow is about to say hello. magic card colors. It's a brand new start of the rainbow. A ray of special things is getting in my soul. It's my wish to leave my sadness. Breaking down is not the perfect way to live. Ooh. Feeling fine now and ever is inside of my heart. I can see the surrender of the darkness in a sky full of stars. Part of the rain clouds bring me home. Everything's a chance to have you grow. After the storm, you have to make it. You can have it done. You will have it done. Sun is shining through the seas is sparkling. The rainbow is about to say hello. And beneath that magic carpet of colors, it's a brand new start under the rainbow. Under the rainbow.
Okay. Okay, sorry for that. So I will start with a very simple toy example about storage delegation. So how will we do storage delegation in a scenario where we don't trust the storage provider? So we have here Aladdin, who is the user, wants to delegate his data, and the genie who promises to Aladdin to store securely his data, but Aladdin doesn't trust the genie. So in this case, we want to ask for further guarantees after we delegate the data to the genie. And one way to do so, if we have a very large data and we have a very small space in our personal computer or disk, we will just do some audit on the data later on the time. So we are convinced that the prover, the genie, just stores our files. And what we usually do, we just open some specific fraction of the data later. Okay? So more briefly, we want a proof, we want to be reassured as in the storage delegation that the provider of storage uses some disk space to store a copy of your data. And this is the proof we want to ask from the genie. So if we can do this, we can imagine to do something more, to have a full network of peer-to-peer distributed storage, where any user in the network can provide this kind of services, and we are reassured that our data is safely stored. And how can we realize this? If we have a proof of space, we can imagine a public ledger, like a blockchain, where election is proportional to the space provided to the network. So we have many users, we will call them storage providers, that just onboard storage capacity to this public network. And they are incentivized by earning block rewards each time they have new storage to the network. But they have to prove that this storage is there continuously, right? And they provide it in a long period of time. So those will be the provers. They can be anybody in the network. And then there are nodes in the network that should verify that these provers are honest and they are really providing space to the network. So this will be called verifiers, and they ensure that the data is stored, is maintained, so we can elect the parties proportional to the space they claim they have to the network, and they will slash the parties, the staked tokens of the parties who misbehave in this network. So these are the two
parties, the two entities in such a peer-to-peer distributed network of storage. And let's see how do we realize this proof of space that is very important in order to guarantee that the network is functioning normally. So in order to make sure that the amount of space that is claimed is really stored, it's really provided to the network, it's not sufficient to just store some data. We need to make sure that the data is incompressible and really takes as much space as it's claimed initially. So we need an initialization phase that serves two purposes. One, transforms any data that we want to store into some replica, into some encoded version of the data that is incompressible. And further, it enables this audit later in order to enable the storage provider to prove that they really store the data continuously on a long period of time. So we can check afterwards. So for this, we need to transform the data into something that is incompressible and hard to replicate in some way. So we will call this replica, the encoding of the data. And keep in mind that the encoding process, by design and for security, needs to be slow and computationally heavy. Should take a lot of time and be very demanding in computation. So how it's realized, we have this type proof of space and replications paper from 2019 that uses depth robust graphs. These are some special graphs that take the data there on top and hash them into a layer graph where each node of the graph has a lot of parents. So it's an expansion graph. And this makes sure that the lower level, the last level here in green, which is the replica of the data, will be very widely spread once we go up on the level. So we have many expansion on the layer before and so on. So if we delete one node in the lower level, we will have to recompute a lot of hashes to go back to the node from the data. So that's necessary in order to make sure that when we audit back position on the replica, the cheating prover will not be able to perform the audit correctly without storing this last layer. So that's one thing to remember for this talk. And then what we do after we do this replication, this new encoding of the data, we have a new replica, and we have to tell the world that we now onboard some storage on the network. So we will add the commitment to the data into this replica to the public ledger. We'll claim this is our storage, but we have to prove, in order that the audit to be correctly performed, we have to prove that this transformation from the data to the replica was performed correctly. Remember, this encoding transformation, this puzzle is it's a very hard, long computation, and we have to prove that it was performed correctly with respect to the initial data, and our replica should be trusted later. And the commitment to the replica will be a guarantee that we have onboarded real space in the network. Okay, so initialization is performed. Let's now go to the execution phase, which is it's a repeated audit phase where we need to make sure that the storage providers still have their data or their claim storage, their claim disk space assigned to the network. So we need to challenge random positions on this vector of the replica and make sure they are able to answer in a short time, so they don't have to, if they deleted something, they don't have to go back to the initial data and redo all the encoding in order to answer. So we will ask them to open some position and give us reassurance, some proof that these are consistent with the commitments that were previously submitted to the chain. So we have already committed to the data and to the replica. Okay. So just a recap, we first encode the data, make it in a form that is allowing us to perform audits on it, and this is submitted to the chain in form of some commitment. We committed, and then we have to make possible for the prover, for the storage provider to open just some specific location in the data, so in this replica, so to make sure that they still store it. And how How do we realize this
Let's
with
go.
some building blocks, cryptographic building blocks?
Right. Hey, hello everyone. The need for Zcash, a privacy-preserving network, has never been greater. We live amongst a world of mass surveillance and are on the onset of government-controlled CBDCs. It is so great to be amongst the group of builders and contributors bringing privacy to cryptocurrency. I'm Aditya. I joined the Zcash ecosystem following the sapling launch as a user, then a wallet builder, and a grants committee member. I have a decade-long experience in shipping mobile and e-commerce apps. And Matt here is the iOS lead for Nighthawk Wallet. He and I worked together at Panera Bread, where we scaled the food ordering app to 1 million active users. At Nighthawk, our primary goal is to empower everyone with privacy in the crypto world while fighting against censorship and oppression. To achieve this, we are dedicated to going above and beyond to ensure that both seasoned crypto users and newcomers can enjoy enhanced privacy. Our focus lies in providing day-to-day Zcash users with the utmost privacy and actively promoting the adoption of shielded Zec, working together with the community ambassadors and members around the world. As a privacy-focused company, we firmly stand against collecting automated logs from our applications. Instead, we prioritize direct engagement with our users, valuing their feedback and incorporating it into our wallet's development. Ever since my team focused on working on the Zcash network, we have dived deeper on the use cases, researched gaps in the ecosystem, and built tools and infrastructure to make Zec more usable. We have been working closely with potential users and educating them on the benefits of using Zec. Our project contributors come from 7 countries, and the community-driven translations are in 8 languages and growing. The majority of our team is non-US based, and we currently rely on US-based platforms to meet global compliance for distributing the Nighthawk wallet on the Google and Apple app stores. The exception being the F-Droid store, which is international and caters to our Google-free user base. We presented our roadmap to the Zcash community early this year, catering to filling the gaps in infrastructure, services, and wallet experiences in the Zcash ecosystem. Our original plan included a UX designer and a shielded assets cryptographer. Now reduced to a core team of 5, we are on track to publish our remaining deliverable of a fast-syncing wallet for the benefit of Zcash network. The Community Grants Program has proven to be a crucial driver of funding short-term proposals, enabling numerous projects to receive the necessary support and deliver their contributions to the ecosystem. However, there is a need to further incentivize and cultivate a culture of ongoing development and funding new initiatives and collaborations to continue growing the Zcash adoption, aligning with the original vision set in the ZIP 1014. So we look forward to explore sustainable funding mechanisms available for long-term builders in the Zcash ecosystem to fund our upcoming developments and initiatives. Next, I pass on to Matt to go over our product development approaches and the product suite.
Well, hello, everybody. At Nighthawk Apps, we've tapped into our talent pool to help Zcash developers and users alike by building great, easy-to-use tools. We strive not just to build great software, but to train great software engineers to break into the industry. And I like to consider myself to be an example of that. My first commit in the Zcash ecosystem was only just in January, and already I've had a chance to speak and make meaningful contributions to this ecosystem. Over the last 3 years, we've shipped a globally distributed Zcash mainnet and testnet infrastructure as public goods, which is actively used by a variety of projects. We've released the Nighthawk Wallet, native Android and iOS apps, and zcashblockexplorer.com for mainnet and testnet with open API support for developers. Now, we're working on revamping the wallet apps to deliver a much faster user experience, Exchange.js wallet for Zcash to enable Zec on Thorchain, a decentralized exchange and DeFi product suite. We also maintain an Elixir library that powers our tracker-free open source Block Explorer And we look forward to integrating Zebra Node with our Block Explorer and Light Wallet D services. The Nighthawk team operates, maintains, and services lightwalletd.com. What is lightwalletd.com? Well, it's a very crucial piece that applications such as wallets and light clients can use to access and work with the Zcash blockchain. It's the Zcash public mainnet and testnet infrastructure, and our goal here is to work together with the Zcash ecosystem developers to deliver Zec blockchain access to every user. The Nighthawk team has successfully conducted one network upgrade and several Zcash D manual testing, verification, and deployments prior to switching over to a completely automated Kubernetes-based setup, which is globally distributed across 4 continents for redundancy and low latency for our users around the world. The Kubernetes setup helps the infrastructure to scale easily and manage resources well. The lightwalletd.com service is actively used by more than 30 projects with code published on GitHub and GitLab. It's turned out to be a crucial infrastructure for the ease of accessing the blockchain for light clients and mobile users. The LightWalletD service requires active maintenance and emergency turnaround time for issues in production. The Zcash D upgrade workflow is suboptimal and can be vastly improved with platform engineering, automated testing, and QA. This service comes with quarterly transparency reports and a status page which gives real-time updates about the infrastructure. Users can check it to know if there are any issues or maintenance going on at any given time. So let's go over zcashblockexplorer.com, also known as ZBE. It started out as an open discussion on the forum where forum users' input shaped the requirements of the grant proposal for building a community-owned, Tor-accessible open source explorer that anyone could run. After all, achieving privacy extends to the level of viewing public transaction data on the blockchain. ZBE was the first explorer to support NU5 transaction information and does not contain any tracking or logging scripts. It supports open APIs for developers to query blockchain data directly in their applications, a feature used by Thorchain to verify transaction status. This year, we released a testnet version of our Explorer with open APIs for any developer to tap into. We look forward to integrate ZBE with Zebra Node and explore the upcoming shift of the consensus mechanism and dev fund to make the up-to-date status of the blockchain available visually to users. Next, let's talk about our core product, Nighthawk Wallet. Our core product, which is on track to relaunch in the coming weeks, was the first shielded by default wallet shipped that required spending out from the shielded pool only. It was originally started at the Hackathon project in 2020, organized by ECC, and subsequently funded by Zcash Foundation and the Dev Fund. With this shielded by default setting, users conduct their transactions with the confidence that their financial data remains secure from prying eyes. I'd like to highlight the importance of transparent funds and shielding. Before spending, it's crucial to shield transparent Zec into a private shielded address. By doing so, we maintain the confidentiality of the parties involved and protect sensitive financial information. We understand the significance of user privacy, and that's why we commit to not collect any personal information during transactions, as is verified in our open source code base. Our commitment goes further as we strictly adhere to the principles of not selling any user data. For example, the unstoppable domain support and our wallet apps require an opt-in mechanism when mapping names to addresses. Secondly, we don't ship our apps with Google Play services, which are notorious for gathering excess information from our users. Safety is a top priority for us, which is why we take proactive steps to protect our users. We will warn our users about potential data leaks when interacting with third-party services. This way, you can stay informed and make secure choices, ensuring your data stays safe. And we will warn you if you're using the shielded address as a pass-through. That is, receiving funds to your transparent address, shielding it, and then immediately spending it all. In summary, we at Nighthawk aim to be the wallet for all your shielded and private digital transactions. So next I want to talk about the benefits of shipping a mobile-first experience. And we have a few points to cover this. So first, we have enhanced user experience. Prioritizing native development allows for a seamless and optimized user experience, resulting in higher user satisfaction and engagement. Second is the integration of third-party APIs. Native apps enable easy integration of various third-party APIs, providing users with familiar experiences and access to extended functionalities. Third, custom views and navigation. Developing natively ensures the ability to create custom views and navigation, allowing the app to adhere to the design guidelines and UX standards of their respective platforms, both Android and iOS, allowing easier extensibility to watch and iPad platforms. Fourth, we have simplified debugging and analysis. Analyzing and debugging native code becomes more straightforward due to its consistent structure and adherence to standardized principles. Fifth, seamless updates and maintenance. Being supported by Google and Apple, native apps can easily implement new functionalities, address errors, and launch updates without disrupting the app's usability. Sixth is long-term reliability. Investing in native app development ensures long-term reliability as it aligns with the continuous advancements in both the Android and iOS ecosystems. And seventh, we have maximized platform integration. Native development allows taking full advantage of the capabilities and features offered by each platform, resulting in a more robust and polished application, built as the platform developers intended it and as our users have come to expect. So how are we going to build the future? We have a few key tasks that we believe will be critical to this endeavor. First, we have our user-first experience. Our foremost commitment is to prioritize the end user experience while building features. This approach ensures that our products not only meet, but exceed our user expectations. Second, maintaining and enhancing the mobile SDKs. So, disclaimer, following the spam attack on the Zcash network, the delays in our roadmap were caused by entirely relying on ECC for upstream mobile SDK development and updates, which significantly impacted wallet users' experience. Our initial goal was to avoid duplication of efforts and instead collaborate to work on a consolidated version of syncing algorithms and SDK maintenance. To tailor services specifically for Nighthawk Wallet, we aim to make strategic changes to the mobile SDK development. These enhancements will enable a more seamless and feature-rich user experience. This includes support for send-to-many, enabling our users to pay multiple recipients at a time, and even tip us every time for using Nighthawk for a transaction, helping with sustainable funding. Third, we have contributions to zips. Adi has authored 2 transaction fee-related zips, zip 313 and zip 317. Presently, Adi is working on zip 315, focused on best practices for wallet implementations. Our team has actively participated and led the growth of the Light Client Working Group to improve wallet diversity. These contributions demonstrate our dedication to improving the ecosystem. Fourth, we have protocol level changes. Following the delivery of Nighthawk Wallet 2.0, we will focus on protocol level changes related to dynamic fee adjustments, posterity fund implementations, and self-funding mechanisms. These changes will contribute to a more sustainable and efficient Zcash ecosystem. Fifth, we have enhanced network level privacy. We aim to prioritize user privacy by integrating Tor and NIM protocols, providing network level privacy for wallet users' transactions. Sixth, we are extending integrations with service providers. We're actively and uniquely positioned to expand our partnerships with any service providers within the crypto ecosystem. This includes enabling ZEC spending via the Flexa network, facilitating in-wallet swaps, and exploring address name resolution protocols like Handshake. Seventh, expanding to watch platforms and tablets. To cater to different user needs, we plan to extend our apps to watch platforms for instant payments and tablets for point-of-sale payment acceptance. And eighth is our roadmap for a shielded messaging app. Our roadmap includes developing a shielded messaging features that combine the convenience of Signal and Venmo in a single interface, enhancing communication and transactional capabilities. We have an exciting future ahead with a strong roadmap, exceptional user experiences, and real impact through innovation and end user focus. And I, for one, can't wait to see what we'll achieve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we still have time to work with Joel.
Okay. So thank you for coming to our talk. Now we're going to invite Joel to join us on the stage for a brief brainstorming session to get feedback from our users, ideas about what you would like to see for wallet apps and features. So, Joel?
So Paco, would you like to go over the questions first? Maybe we can wrap that up.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, microphone check, 1, 2.
Okay.
You're gonna need a mic.
So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we have 3 questions so far. The first one is, does Nighthawk Wallet have any future plans to integrate to the Osmosis DEX, considering the Namada plus Zcash partnership?
That's a great question. Yeah, Namada has been, Namada is exploring a multi-shielded assets protocol. And since Zcash is also planning to move towards the IBC style setup, it does make sense to invest in learning about how to start swapping assets in that ecosystem. For now, we are focusing on L1 swaps, but we would in the future want to give the ability to Nighthawk users to store various types of assets on both the Ethereum ERC20 chain and the IBC style protocol. So yes, we can look into that.
Great. I have another question. Let's go. So Nighthawk was the first wallet I used for Zcash. I contributed to the translations and I loved its redesign. But will Nighthawk wallet be the best wallet for Zcash after the next update?
I mean, that's up to the users to decide. We are doing our best to provide a unique experience, and we are open for any feedback we get following the relaunch of the wallet with the updated SDKs that will provide faster syncing and better syncing capabilities against the spam attack that we have been undergoing. So yeah, we're ready to work with our users.
Awesome. All right, we have more coming. So third question, how do you balance the need to educate users in-app versus flooding them with too much information and choices that they might not realize they had to make?
Right. So there are different approaches for user education in-app. One of them is first-time use. When the user installs the application, we take them through a tutorial. But we have learned that users mostly like to skip it and get to the part of starting using the application. So we have chosen the path of only when a user takes a potential action, then in that case, the first time you educate them about what that action is going to mean for their intent and if there are potential data leaks. And there's much more to learn on this. We have to get to increasing the Zcash adoption. That means educating non-crypto users to understand this self-custody tech. So we also want to work together with Zcash, like community. There are these organizations like Zcash in Spain, Spanish community, the Zcash Brazil community, and around the world. So we want to understand their regional expectations, maybe even cater to regional language-based education. So there's much to explore there.
Great. We have another question coming. So the question is, what is the capacity for Nighthawk to pursue business integrations for the wallets for the wallet for services that do not yet support Zcash?
Okay, so that is, to repeat, how do we get Zcash and Zec integrated into businesses that today don't support Zec? So that's a broader ecosystem challenge, right? We want to convince everyone in the crypto industry that privacy is normal. There's nothing like different about it than other cryptocurrencies. Instead, here we have extended protection for our end users. So the benefit of Zcash we have is that we have support for transparent addresses That is one easy way to start getting integrated. But the thing that's been missing for our ecosystem is dev tooling. So even if we want to get someone onboarded, there's no easy way for them to hack on something and get integrating with Zcash. So we will need to develop good enough dev tooling, sandboxes to attract third-party services. But for now, we are trying to get other third-party services that support Zec to be used within the wallet, so the Zcash users can actually find out what can they do with their Zec.
All right, and I have a last question here. It's short. Question. Would love to see viewing key support. Would this come soon?
Right. So again, exploratory phase, there's multiple types of viewing key support. First is whether we should allow the viewing key visible in the wallet app itself. So we plan to do that. We initially did not do it because our new user base were prone to sharing that viewing key, not understanding what it is. Goes back to the user education aspect. And the second feature is having the ability to input a viewing key in your wallet and then sync all the transactions. So for that, we had added the support in the zcashblockexplorer.com to be able to paste a viewing key and securely access its transactions via a Tor connection as well. Yes, much more tooling has to be developed in our low-level code libraries to make it happen in the client app. But we will get there. We'll slowly add advanced features to the wallet apps.
All right. These are all the questions we have from the audience. So
Right. Thank you for asking all the questions. As for the brainstorm session, I think we can follow that up in our wallet working session. Right? We have 2 following wallet working sessions after this, so please join us with Joel over there to share your ideas, what you would like to see in Nighthawk Wallet and other wallets for Zcash.
all right. I'll leave you to it. Are you going to carrying this session?
All right. Thank you all.
Still storing their data. So it's more of a proof of useful space. And I guess this can be used generically in a peer-to-peer network of decentralized storage to have alternative to this full centralized Amazon or Google or other storage. So independent of proof of space and blockchains, cryptocurrencies. Yeah.
Cool. We'll have to think about how we could use something like that here. So, all right, let's thank Anka.
This is my opinion, not necessarily official position of NIST or the Department of Commerce. Anyway, in these 6 years, there has been I personally have had this underlying intention of promoting an exploration of advanced cryptography from a perspective of standardization. And so I'm very happy to be here in a position where we're really talking about what I would say is a milestone, in the sense that we've really finally put out a call for submissions of cryptographic schemes that in a sense correspond to advanced cryptography if we compare them to basic building blocks that NIST usually has been focusing on traditionally in terms of standardization. I want to start with a disclaimer, which is this is actually a repeated presentation, so it's not original presentation presented for the first time. Although I will have a little extra emphasis here on zero knowledge proofs, considering the audience of Zcon4. And having said that, it's interesting to ask, okay, why repeating? Is it really worth it? And in my opinion, it is actually very worth it. In particular, because we do want to promote a wide dissemination of this opportunity, basically to engage with various communities, really, across various subdomains of cryptography, and also to complement this as a personal experience that I've been having, as I've been giving some of these presentations across basically various crypto-related conferences. It's really very interesting to realize that often we kind of develop this internal notion that things are already clear for the community, and then we talk with people, but actually they haven't heard about this before, or they've heard, but they have maybe somewhat a misled notion about some aspect of it. So it is really important also from a standardization perspective that there is enough time for some of these notions of how the processes go to percolate through the community for it there to be a good collective understanding of what we're looking for. Okay, having said that, the outline of this presentation is here. I think it's important to start with some context. So I want to give a brief introduction about NIST, and in particular, these two projects, the privacy enhancing cryptography and the multi-party threshold cryptography projects. Then I will talk specifically about this that in short we call the threshold call. Then I will mention a little bit what is the process that we envision ahead. And then, and this was basically asked for by the organizers, I will finish the talk. There will be a little period for questions and answers about the talk, but then I will continue trying to promote a bit of an interactive process, actually myself posing questions to the audience and hopefully generating some interaction. Maybe that also serves as a little motivation to pay more attention to the talk. All the slides will be made publicly available. Okay, about NIST. NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the United States. It's a federal agency. One important aspect of it is that it's non-regulatory, so it's not, NIST does not say who needs to use standards. So you can see it more as it develops standards to be voluntarily adopted. There may, however, then be other agencies or other laws that actually require in some particular context that some NIST standards are used, but that's not up to NIST to decide who uses the standards. There's, of course, a mission statement that includes interesting keywords, innovation, industrial competitiveness, and somewhere there includes standards, naturally, that should promote economic security, should improve quality of life. NIST is a large institution. It has, I believe, between 6,000 and 7,000 collaborators overall, employees and staff members, associates. It's divided in various laboratories. One of them is the Information Technology Lab. Within it, there is the Computer Security Division, and then within it, there's the Cryptographic Technology Group that ipsis verbis here, researches, develops, engineers, and produces guidelines, recommendations, and best practices for cryptographic algorithms, methods, and protocols. And that's basically the scope of where this threshold call arises from. The crypto group, in short, or the cryptographic technology group, develops various activities. Often we categorize them as standards, research, and application. You have a few examples here: kind of illustrative with some acronyms. For example, there are standards on random number generators, post-quantum cryptography, threshold cryptography, lightweight cryptography, privacy-enhancing cryptography, hash functions. There's an application for randomness beacons. There's research on circuit complexity. There's guidelines for elliptic curves, digital signatures, block ciphers, and key management, for example. The standards, or more generically speaking, the documentation that NIST issues is usually organized into these FIPS, SPs, and NIST IRs. FIPS are really kind of the main standards that actually need to be approved above NIST by the Department of Commerce, and there you have examples like FIPS for digital signatures. There's also special publications that often are called recommendations and guidelines, but you can, broadly speaking, they are also standards. And then we have NIST reports that basically report on research or consider some positioning or have some exploratory ideas, including about this project, like the threshold schemes. And then we try to do this, NIST tries to do this in international cooperation with government, industry, academia, and also other standardization bodies. For example, often NIST transposes standards from other standardization bodies, such as, for example, the standard for digital signatures. Some of the digital signatures. Here are some examples of two NIST cryptography projects that should be quite popular: post-quantum cryptography and lightweight cryptography. Post-quantum has been having a process to standardize signatures and key encapsulation that is resilient to quantum computers. Lightweight cryptography has been selected recently an authenticated a candidate that will lead to a standard on authenticated encryption with associated data and hashing for constrained devices. I'm presenting these two here because I want to present a little bit of contrast with what we call more exploratory projects, such as the privacy-enhancing cryptography and multi-party threshold cryptography, that have been looking at, again, we can call it advanced cryptography or cryptography with some advanced features, including multi-party threshold schemes that I will talk a little more about. These projects, even though the future may include standards, they are currently looking at these techniques from a more exploratory standpoint, and really the focus is on following this approach that we call the reference material approach. So we're collecting reference material so that we can reflect better about what we should do in the future. Should we issue recommendations and guidelines? Should we develop standards? Should we do more basic research? And then, of course, there are various other projects, but the key takeaway here is that the threshold call that I will talk about today basically emerges from the multi-party threshold cryptography and the PEC projects, and the goal is to gather reference material for public analysis, to which so that we can later on issue possible recommendations, including about this privacy-enhancing cryptography tools. Just taking the chance, some updates. For example, the post-quantum cryptography as last year selected 4 schemes for standardization with post-quantum security, and they aim to publish their draft standards this summer. And also more recently, there's a new process for analyzing other post-quantum signature submissions. The lightweight cryptography project has recently selected one candidate, as I mentioned, and they intend to have a draft standard by late this year. The threshold call, again, comes from these 2 projects. In January, we published the draft call, and what we aim is to have actually a virtual workshop for more comments in late September, still to be properly announced, and then the call finalized in the second half of 2023, and most likely to have a submission deadline around mid-2024, although this is still a bit flexible. Just as another example, recently, FIPS 1.
Yeah.
Thanks, Papu.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Hi, everybody. So we have one of our workshops here today. I think one of the fundamental necessities, obviously, in the cryptocurrency space is a mobile app. And while Zcash may have started with the gruesome command line send and receive, we do have a plethora of mobile apps now built by the community, including companies like Edge. And one of the things that we had contributed in the process of building Edge is an open source library that anybody can use to build a mobile app specifically on the React Native platform. And so let's talk about the process and also kind of the whys. Quick introductions. Oops, what happened here? Sorry. Ooh. Had the wrong slide. I was at the very end. Okay, so quick introductions. My name is Paul Pui. I'm CEO and co-founder of Edge. Used to work for NVIDIA. I am both CEO and also a software engineer. I still kind of get into the nitty-gritty of developing with our team. Still write a little bit of code, but also help kind of run operations in the company as a CEO, probably more so should do. Spoken at a dozen different crypto conferences and happy to share some of the insights and thoughts that have accumulated over, gosh, almost 10 years of working in the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin space. So a few developer assumptions. I'm going to assume some people here aren't very technical. This is going to be a bit of a slight coding workshop. I'll try to make it fairly high level. So for those of you that are technical, you should be able to kind of understand what's going on, especially if you happen to build within the JavaScript, TypeScript, React world. If you're not, and maybe you have some interest in building a project, hopefully you can at least see how easy it is now, based on the code examples, how easy it is to build something that maybe you want to see in the ecosystem and bring on some developers to do so, whether it be a payment processing app. I've heard from quite a few people that like, gosh, we need something for our merchants to be able to receive money. Well, this could be a way to build that application that's focused on that. One of the big challenges in the crypto space is a lot of projects want to kind of do everything. And we get pressure to incorporate functionality into our app just because you can. And there's low friction from the viewpoint of regulatory, you need licenses, this and that. It's just software. That's the beauty of crypto. But at the same time, you want to build an app that has a specific purpose. And payment processing isn't our focus. That could be a great example of an app that people could build for Zcash fairly easily with this library. For those that do want to follow along, these are the GitHub repos. We built a short URL right below. So for example, edge.app.rnz will get you to the React Native Zcash GitHub repository, or RNZD, which is the demo app. And what I'm going to be going through today is the demo application that uses the library. So you can see the different steps taken in order to build an app that does address generation, key generation, and basic querying of balances, transactions, and then sending of funds. All right, let's hop right into the demo here. Okay, so for those of you that are unfamiliar with React Native is a mobile development framework that is actually starting to transition to enable people to write desktop-based applications. But the beauty of React Native is that it is cross-platform, right? You can build once and deploy to both iOS and Android, and to some degree on desktop, but you get relatively native level performance. So you get nearly the performance that you would get if you're writing a native app in the two different languages of the different mobile devices. So what I have here is what's called this initial commit, which is when you just create a bare bones demo React Native app. This is all the code here on the right side that you'll get dumped, and you don't write any of this. There's a little command you run React Native in it, and it creates this little demo app on the side. So this is an Android emulator. All right, looks just like a little Android device with its buttons on the bottom, and all of that gets created for you within a few lines, a few commands, and that's simply it. So what I'm gonna do is take this demo app and slowly trim it down and put Zcash functionality right into it. This set of commits tells the story from a very bare bones React Native app to how to get it to Zcash functionality. So what I've done is I've structured each of these changes one by one to start from the beginning into, boom, I can send and receive, get my balances and transactions in for Zcash. So first thing I did is simplify that user interface. You see all this user interface, it's more than we really need. I'm going to simplify it to bare bones to what's frequently called hello world in the development world. And here you can see the changes I made. I ripped out, it's all red, I ripped out a bunch of code, and there's my hello world right there, right? I'm just going to make a little text component, right? Little hello world. Nothing else going in there. All of that other stuff you saw is just getting ripped out. And I'm going to go ahead and reset to this guy, reset, hard, boom. And now you can see there's our app. And so with React Native, you have live updates. You change the code, the emulator or even the real device automatically reflect the code changes. I don't have to compile or anything like that. And you can see there's the little hello world, right? Zooming right into it. And so we'll use this as a little canvas to show the different updates to the application. So what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to include the library. All right, so here are the changes necessary to include the library. Primarily, you add React Native Zcash. That's the primary library that we built. This is built on top of ECC's iOS and Android libraries that do automatic synchronization and whatnot. I'll be the first to admit, as many people know, a lot of the mobile wallets in Zcash, the ones that use the ECC library, are very slow at syncing right now, especially if you have an older wallet that was created before what's known as kind of like the little spam attack. We don't know if it was real spam, but a lot of transactions hit the network. It takes a lot longer to synchronize. We are going to be updating this library with some of the optimizations that the ECC team have put into place, but that's probably about a month or 2 months away. But know that this is the same library you'll be using. So adding that library into your list of dependencies, run yarn. Yarn is a command to go and incorporate those dependencies. There's a few other things that need to be added. Those are all in the README of the GitHub repository, but relatively straightforward from a developer's point of view. So I'm going to go ahead and then show next commit is adding iOS support. So if you want to develop on iOS, there are a few other things that you have to do. This is a script that updates what are called checkpoints. So many of you might not understand what checkpoints are. Checkpoints are a way to prevent the application from having to sync from the very beginning of time, right? From block 0. If you had to sync from block 0 all the way up to now, you could easily take days, weeks to synchronize depending on your internet connection speed and speed of your phone. So checkpoint basically allows sync from the most recent checkpoints, and checkpoints are updated about once per week. Checkpoints will come with the library. When you install the library, the last time the library is updated, the Android checkpoints will be updated. This little script copies those to iOS. So that way, you'll be syncing with a brand new wallet, not with an old one, but with a brand new wallet, you'll be syncing from the last checkpoint. So at most, you'll be approximately about a week old. So that's one thing you do have to do with Android. And pod files are kind of iOS's version of a package manager, so you'll have to update those, and all these commits show exactly the changes that need to be made. There won't be any changes to the apps. I'm not showing any screen updates. It's all still hello world. But now we're going to do actual functionality. So let's generate a spending key. So I'm going to look at the differences here. So in generating the spending key, there's an object in React Native Zcash called a key tool. Has various methods on there for helping generating of the key. For those of you familiar with React, creating what's called a use effect, which is a function that just runs once in the app because of the parameters I've given it. And here we're simply taking the key tool, calling derive spend key. You do need to have your own random number generator. I'm not giving a lesson on how to create proper random numbers. As we know, that's a very important part of cryptocurrency. Generate your own random entropy. We do everything in mainnet here. So I'm not using testnet, just go right to it. Test the real deal, Holyfield. So generating that spend key, we're setting that spend key as kind of global component state. And then you can see I replaced the hello world at the bottom with just simply printing the spend key. And then you can see it. So I think there's actually a tiny bit of money on the spend key. So for any aspiring people, they can actually take the money if they really wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and hard reset to this commit so you can see what changes in the app. And then there you go. There's a spend key. I'll go ahead and zoom in on this if you really want to take the money. Spend key, and it's this long, ugly string. This is not the key that someone's going to write down and back up, but it's part of what you will need for the rest of the SDK to actually spend money and then generate public and private keys. That is derived from the random hex, and that's derived from the mnemonic that you would normally generate, which is like 12, 24 words in there. So that's kind of the first step, generating a spend key. Not something you'd show the user, but you would hold internally within the application. Now comes the first interesting thing, generate your address. You need a Z address so you can actually receive money. Let's see, that's the spend key. Let's look at generating a Z address. All right, so in addition to the key tool object, we have the address tool object. And I've set a couple other state variables in my component, one for the view key and one for the address. To generate a spending key, from there you're going to have to generate what's called a view key, and not another thing that the user generally sees, but you store a state inside of your app. And then from that, you'll generate an address. So I've got a little bit of logging information, so I log onto the console what the address is. And you can see it's fairly straightforward. This is the bulk of the code that uses the SDK. So derive viewing key, you'll use that same randomness that you had generated, random hex. And then from that view key, the view key that gets returned is not just text, it's actually an object. And you use one of the parameters in that object to derive your shielded address. And this talk is entirely about doing a shielded address wallet. We're not talking about doing the standard transparent address, just because who wants transparent addresses, right? Who wants to send and receive where everyone can see what you're doing? So pretty much 2 lines of code to generate the address. I set the address, and then I view it. So these are the text components that show the view key and the address. And so let's reset that. Hard. Boom. Let's see what happens. And there we go. You can see there's our view key. And then there's our address, ZS1, JSRJ. Now that is the thing that you would normally show to a user if you were building a point of sale app. Use a QR code library, embed that into the library. There's also some protocols to specify the amount that would go into the address. You can look up exchange rates. Obviously, we're going to do a very basic, app here. We're not doing full-blown wallet application, just how to use the SDK. But there's your Z address. And in essence, really with just from the viewpoint of the actual SDK, just a few lines of code, right? This is by and large the bulk. Everything in this init function is you interfacing with that SDK. All right, what's the next thing we want to do? There's an object called a synchronizer. So the way that ECC designed the SDK is that it's a very stateful SDK. All right, it runs as an engine. You start this thing called a synchronizer, and it runs in the background. You feed it the keys necessary, and it will grab your transactions, calculate your balances, and you can talk to it for sending money. So there's this process of setting up and starting this thing called a synchronizer, and I'll walk through that. So there's a few imports here, the configuration of the initializer. We're going to set a couple of variables again, which we're going to display as the synchronizer updates. One is called a status, and another one's called an update. And those come in asynchronously. They just kind of come in the background. So first thing I'm going to do is going to get a birthday height, because we're going to tell the synchronizer when to start scanning. Right? You're basically saying, here are my keys, but I know that they were created as of a certain height. Don't bother scanning before that point in time. And so you can use the key tool to get that birthday height. In a way, this is a bit of a misnomer. This is actually going to query the network, ask the Zcash network, what's the current height? So it's not truly a birthday height. It's really just getting the current height. And then we initialize the synchronizer. Here's where you specify the network. We're going to go work on mainnet. You do need a host and port. This code happens to now read from a config file where you can put your Light Wallet D server or one available on the network. You put the URL of that host and the URL on the port. This is kind of the example format of the config file, right? Where there's my random hex that I had put in, the host, so my domain host, and then of course the port. Let's see here, birthday height, and then we have a config for the initializer. This is what we were just talking about. You do need to pass the initializer the view key, right? So the initializer, or I'm sorry, the synchronizer. The view key allows it to decrypt your transactions off the network. So it can't spend it, but it can decrypt it to show you your balances and transactions. And then you have to give it an alias. An alias allows the synchronizer to have multiple wallets going at the same time, right? For different keys, but you specify an alias for each one. And it's just a human readable string. I'm calling this one my Zcash wallet 1. And then there's that birthday height that we queried ahead of time. Then we call make synchronizer with that config, and then we subscribe to updates. So these are the asynchronous events that come in as the synchronizer is running in the background, and we don't have to deal with a lot of that background operation. That's kind of the elegance of the ECC library. It does all of that hard work, and we're wrapping that with React Native. And then we say start, and there's an equivalent stop. synchronizer call as well. But once you start it, that engine just starts running and it starts feeding you updates. And I think this is now currently synced because I ran it earlier this morning, but let's go ahead and enable that commit and see what happens here. Oops, my Android app. Note that development environments are a little unstable, so sometimes you've got to restart them. Yarn Android. Let's see here. Yarn Android, as I typed in, is the command to just simply compile and launch the app. Boom, here we go. So it's synced pretty quick because I was relatively up to date. Let's zoom in here. There was a line that had our address. This is the line that shows us our status. And this is the line that shows us kind of updates as they come in. So let's look kind of like line by line at what you get back. So you get a little object back. You get the current network block height on update. So as the block height changes, you asynchronously get called with an update that says, here's the current block height. Scan progress goes from 0 to 100, which is the progress of which the library has scanned through all the downloaded blocks. So that allows you to put some update to the user, a little progress bar or whatnot. Last scanned height is the block height that it is scanned from when it last had downloaded, and the last downloaded height. So there's two parts of synchronization. One is downloading the blocks, and then another one is scanning through them to look for your transactions. And the updates give you the height of the progress of both of those. So here's where we last downloaded, and then here's where we last scanned. And then, of course, the alias. And that allows you to kind of differentiate, am I getting updates for wallet 1 or wallet 2 or wallet 3, in case you wanted to show multiple different wallets inside of the application. This live updates, but I'm fully scanned, and you can see that because the status now shows as synced. And what you'll see there typically would be downloading, scanning, synced. So your app can effectively wait for that synced operation before kind of going further. Right now, the ECC library has an annoying limitation that you don't really want to do anything as far as querying and definitely sending funds until you're synced. There's even some instability, at least in the version of the library that we are using here, or if you try to do some of those operations, you could actually crash. So wait for sync before querying things, which we'll do next in the next commit, which is getting a balance, getting transactions. All right, let's go back here. So next thing, get balance. This one's pretty straightforward. Once again, set some more component state variables that we can use for displaying the balance. And right on the synchronizer's asynchronous status updates, we wait for status to show us as synced. Once it's synced, we're going to call synchronizer.getShieldedBalance and then set that balance so that we can now see it. And we added another line to show the balance right after the address, right in the UI. Oops, let me go ahead and set that. Reset. Okay. So I may have to there's the address. The synchronizer needs to start. Here we are. And there's our balance that just showed up. Okay. And you get available Satoshis. And as many of you may know, Satoshi is kind of the Zcash equivalent of a Satoshi. And then total Satoshis. So available Satoshis are signifying the Satoshis that you can spend at that point in time, which could be different from how many you have in total, likely due to not having enough confirmations to spend. Paco can probably correct me if I'm wrong there. So those two numbers kind of are what are fed back by the SDK. All right, balance, fairly straightforward. Let's get the block height. That's also super straightforward. As you already saw, that was given in one of the updates. So block height, that comes out of the update, and we're just going to go ahead and set the block height so that we can display it. If your app wants to display block heights to the user, this is how you do it. Reset, hard. And we're going to need the block height because that's what we're going to use to get transactions. So that's why we kind of go and query it and set that as state that's available through the rest of the component. And there's our block height. All right, 2176118, which should match what we see right here. Cool. All right, now getting transactions. Now, I'm going to preface this with the ECC library is changing, and we're using some interfaces that are not going to be available going forward. So this will change in probably about a month. So pay attention or not as to what's available right now. We've made it fairly simple to get transactions. This is one of the harder things to do with the current ECC library. But looking at the process, we've simplified it. A few more imports. The birthday height is now part of the config here, where you get to specify, at what point do you want to start scanning for transactions. Let's see here. We set a transactions variable again so that we can display that. I'm going to remove the querying of the birthday height and instead going to use what's inside of the config file. You'll notice a lot of apps in Zcash, if you transition from one device to another, it'll ask you what's the birthday height, and you have to enter the birthday height that you hopefully remember from when you created the wallet. So this, in essence, is why we're putting it in a config file, and that you can specify that as part of the config. Local block height, here we go. This is the meat of what needs to be done here to get your transactions. So once we're synced, once again, you don't want to touch anything, getting balances and transactions until you're synced. So once you're synced, we are going to, see here, we're just logging the height. So we're querying the transactions between two heights, right? So the birthday height and then the local block height. Local block height is basically the current height as it is right now. So synchronizer, get transactions starting from birthday height and then ending in the local block height. And then we're going to set the transactions to then print them in here. Now this starts looking like more heavyweight React code. A flat list is simply a component that shows you a list of things. All right? There's the data, which is our list of transactions, and then a routine to render them. And in rendering them, we're just going to show the text of the date of the transaction, the TX ID, the value, and the address that it sent money to. Okay? And all of that shows up in the transactions array object that comes out of get transactions. That's this TX's object that we're setting. Okay. So we'll see everything we were printing out before, spend key, view key, address, update, and at the very bottom, we should see a list of transactions. And I think this wallet, unless someone swept my money, this wallet should have about 2 transactions in it once we set this commit. So let's set this commit here, reset hard. Okay, I might have to restart the app. And there we are. Okay, still 2 transactions. No one took my money. Okay, let's zoom in here. And so here, I'm just simply printing the transactions as they came in. There's the date in UTC time. There's your TX ID and your Satoshis. As well, the second transaction date that came in. And so this is Satoshis that I believe came in. And then date TX, oops, I think the app may have crashed here. Once again, unstable development environment. Let's go ahead and run that again. Oop, downloading. Look, we're actually, oop, and synced. Okay. So there's the 2 transactions. 3 million Satoshis came in, TX ID, and then 500,000 Satoshis went out to this specific address. And the existence of a to address is how you signify that it was actually an outgoing transaction. You know that it was sent out. Otherwise, the to address wouldn't be available in the transaction object that came in. And of course, you can display that in some nice, pretty way inside of your app, however you choose to do so. All right. And then last, spending. Let's look at what it takes to spend money. A few more imports, but let's describe the actual code. We're going to set some variables that track the destination address, where the user wants to send money to, the amount they want to send money to, and of course you can send an encrypted memo and propose to someone, much like a few people have actually done on the Zcash blockchain. We're going to set a global component variable for the synchronizer, only because we need it outside of the scope that we were using it. let's look at the meat of the code that's needed here. So the synchronizer, which we were using to get updates and whatnot, is inside of the scope of this use effect. We're going to need it outside of that scope. So we're just kind of setting it as a synchronizer2. Same variable, we're just calling it synchronizer2. All right, so in our UI, we're going to allow the user to have a little text input, how much to spend, allow the user to enter a destination amount, let the user enter a memo optionally, and then a button to send. And what's that button going to do on press? It's going to make sure all of these variables are not null, right? Otherwise you're going to return. And we just simply call a simple function, send to address. Where are they going to send it to? They're going to send it to that address that they typed into the UI, the amount that they had typed in. There's the memo if it exists. If they didn't, we're going to send a blank string. From account index, accounts can have indices. Just know that if you're just using 0, if you're just using one wallet inside of the app, you set that to 0. And then you need to provide the spending key. That's the spending key you generated way back. That was like step 1 when we started the presentation. And then we're going to log the result, which will show the results of the actual spend. Okay, let's set that commit. Right, so you can see this UI at the top. That's the UI that we just built to be able to put in an actual address, put in an amount, and put in a memo. And so I have an address here. I'm just going to go and copy. Let's put that address. Come on, paste. There, oh, there it was. Oh, I think the simulator died. Let's do that again. Okay. Address. There's the paste down there. Amount, let's send 500,001. Am I doing that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Memo. Hello world. And then simply hit send. Did I hit it? Go. I didn't provide a great UI to know that it was sent. Ooh, and there we go. I printed on the console the raw transaction, as you can see, gets spewed to the console. And there it is. So you know that it was actually sent. And the engine automatically queried the transaction. And you'll notice now that, oops, actually, no, this one is still the old transaction. It won't see the, actually, I take that back. It won't see the transaction until it does have a confirmation. So might take a few minutes, of which we'll probably be out of time here. But this should have been a successful transaction. This is the raw hex, and there's the TXID. Actually, I think we can look up this TXID possibly on a Zcash block explorer. Let's try to find one here. Block chair has one. All right, let's put in this transaction, BDD9. Oops. I got lost in all my screens here. And that was transaction, you can see BDD9 that we just created. And let's see. Oh, could find, so it's not quite seen by this block explorer yet. So it could still be processing. 1, 2, oops, I think there it is. August 1st, 9 a.m. And there's the third transaction. There we go, right at the bottom. 500,001 Satoshis. And so it was seen by the synchronizer, queried, the app automatically found it and updated the UI and showed it. So there you go. Thanks. And that is it. I think that's the last commit I put into the repo. So yeah, those are all open source. Feel free to give it a try, use it, build some apps. Let other people know to go build some apps, and let's keep pushing forward the Zcash ecosystem. So thanks, everybody. Right.
Right. Okay, we have some questions coming in. I guess one question, and I have some questions as well. So, how the ECC libraries could be changed to make it easier to build wallets and other tools?
How could the libraries be changed? So one of the challenges of the library is that it's very tied to Android and iOS. So one of the pieces of feedback I've given folks is if they wanted to build something for the web, there's not really a good option there. And so building an equivalent library that uses, say, WebAssembly for a lot of the native Zcash Rust code, and wrapping that with a similar API would allow people to build desktop apps and web apps much more easily. So that's one of the nuggets. Others, I think, is less about easier to use for the developer, but more so kind of just a better experience to the end user. And I think this has already been talked about a lot, but faster synchronization. We know that that's coming.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. And Edge is a multi-coin wallet. So what are
Yeah.
the challenges of integrating Zcash into a wallet that already has a lot of other different coins?
Yeah, that is definitely a challenge. I think the biggest challenge is just resources. So obviously, every time you support a different blockchain, you need resources that can understand that blockchain, learn their SDKs, learn the APIs, and just the fact that so many blockchains change. Just like we're having to keep Zcash updated, we're having to keep, obviously Bitcoin updated, Ethereum and whatnot. That's easily the biggest challenge. Is you can't be completely heads down and looking at a single blockchain. You have to kind of keep your head up and go, okay, what's going on in this community? What's going on in this community? We do have a big focus on privacy, so we keep our head down and focused on a lot of the privacy-focused blockchains. That seems to be our niche within the multi-asset world. But for sure, definitely a big challenge to do multiple assets.
All right. So thank you, Paul, again. Great,
right.
great live demo. Everything went fine.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
such that no one party ever has the full secret key, the full signing key at any one time. This gives us very nice security properties, but also with threshold means that when you look at the signature you produce, you can't tell exactly which parties produced that signature. Only at least T of them were involved in producing the signature. And that gives us very nice privacy properties as well, which we care about for Zcash. Some other things that we in our software package implement to help you use Frost include if you have a certain number of the existing participants work together, you can recover a lost share, which is extremely helpful if you're sharding control over, say, a Zcash spending key, a spend authorization key. And one of your parties lost their share. They lost their wallet, their hardware wallet, or something like that. If you have at least T parties, you can help reconstruct that share and make the participation whole. You can issue new shares if you want to bring someone into your pool of possible signing.
The next speakers are Jonathan and Skylar and the Free2Z family, and they're going to present how to become a creator on Free2Z and how to publish your first page.
All right, so being a creator on Free2Z, it's so easy that we have a little surprise for you. So we're going to use some kids to show you just how easy it is to create a page and become a creator on Free2Z. Curious? All right. So let's start out here. So we can go over. I'll show you this presentation. Take a look up here on the screen and tell us about Free2Z.
What are Z pages? Z pages is a way to share a story of something that you care about with everyone else.
So what's this?
This is an example of a Z page. It's right. So you can write something, then you can write some text. And the cool thing about it is you can also put a pretty drawing. Create an account. So to create an account, you'll have to put a username, and then you'll put in your password, and then you'll click I'm not a robot. If it sees something wrong, if it feels like you did something kind of weird, it'll put photos and it'll say click which ones which photos are the robots.
Makes sense, like a motorcycle or something,
yeah,
right?
And enter.
All right, so your turn. Go tell us about the subscription prices.
Okay, so when you start a Free2Z page, you can also put a subscription price, which basically people pay you in 2 Zs to see your exclusive content. So you put in a number right there, like usually 10 or 15 is a good number. In 2 Zs, which is basically it's kind of like the credit.
Yeah.
Free2Z uses, like they reward you with that. It's kind of like the coins in video games, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly, it's like a video game. All right, tell us how to create a new page.
Now, this is creating a new page. You're gonna want to put your URL, which is basically so everybody out on the internet can see you. And then here you can put in your QR address so that people can pay you. And then you can click save or publish.
And so what can you put in the P2P address? Like what sort of things could you put in there?
In the P2P address, you put in a QR code so people can scan it to pay you in Zec or, well, anything. And then here you can also boost your page with 2 Zs it's kind of like updating something on a video game. You can pay like 2 Z to update your page, to boost your page so more people can see it. And this is your final this is your final result.
Awesome, great. So, all right, that's kind of a good overview. What if we, let's start creating some pages. Sound like fun? Let me just switch over to this display here. Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
How do you get like these embeds and like images, and what kind of features can you put in here?
Yeah, so really the sky's the limit. So we use something called Markdown, which if you're not familiar with, is like a really cool way of formatting text. Just makes it super easy. And you can embed from, I think it's something like 300 platforms, or maybe more. It might be like 1,000 platforms.
I heard it was like 2,000.
Yeah, there you go, from 2,000 platforms. But like some of the big hits are, direct embeds from YouTube, from basically any social media platform. And the nice thing about it is it's all completely privacy friendly. So we ask you if you want to receive this sort of content. Like, we don't just throw it at you. So basically you have to choose whether you want to see the embeds. So that's how you can be pretty sure that it's safe and it's not going to cause any issues for your privacy. So yeah, that's kind of like one of the superpowers of these Z pages. So we'll see that in a second. Great. All right, let's just switch over to our computer and we'll get started. Great. Okay, perfect. All right, come on up. Let's create some pages. So they can see what you see now. All right? Okay. So we're signed out here, so feel free. Let's just create a new username and let's get started. So what username do we want to create? Any ideas, kids? Yeah, what's your idea?
I am a Snoopy fan.
I am a Snoopy fan. How's that sound? Can we do that for a username? I am Snoopy.
S-N-O-P-Y.
Fan. Who likes Snoopy here in the audience? Any Snoopy fans? Got a few Snoopy fans out there. Okay, great. You got a top #1 Snoopy fan right here. All right, and we need to put in the password. So it's something that we remember. All right, it doesn't have to be secure because this is just a demo. Normally you'd want to put in the secure password here, but also something that you can remember. And now we're going to do the fun I'm not a robot button. Great, okay, got it right away. So let's press the enter button. There it goes. Yeah, you can go ahead and save that. Good, that's fine, save it. Now we're logged in. Okay, so as we see here, let's make this a little bigger. So we've got all of these different creators up top. And then now we've also got individual Z pages that have been created. And you can kind of see over here, the boosted ones, the ones that are most recent. Yeah? What's that? No, you can tell everybody.
What happened to the one I made?
Oh, you want to see the one you? All right,
Yeah.
let's show a recent one that you made.
Him.
Okay, let's go down here and let's look at some recent pages. Yeah.
Those are recent.
So right there, this is one by Cryptobella, and it's about her puppy loving brisket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is a true story about a puppy, right? What did the puppy do?
She went over, and when we were going inside to put the brisket away, since it was in the summer, so the flies would go over and get on it. So we were putting it in, and when we came back outside, she was covered with the brisket.
The grease, yeah.
The grease, and she was looking at her beard, and we were so surprised because how did she not get burned? And then so we had to give her a bath.
Yeah, she was pretty stinky. Yeah, so that's a story that she just wrote with a little bit of help from AI too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why don't you go ahead and create a new page, okay? So show us the navigation menu there. So as you see, there's different things in the menu, right? Can you kind of talk us through what each of these links do?
So the profile page is, you can set up a description for yourself and have a profile picture and banner for your profile, and also set your subscription price. And in the public view, you can search for creators that you want to see. In the buy twosies, you can buy twosies with Zcash. And then the new page button, you can create a new page and describe anything you want. With the media, you can upload all sorts of files like images and videos. In the go live, if you have live mode enabled, you can go live and have multiple people join a free-to-see call.
That's great. And then we've got Chat Tuesday as well. A little bit of AI. And then since we've got a very passionate Zcash audience, why don't we take a quick look at the Buy Twosies button, okay? All right, so check it out. So right here, it's showing us we can buy twosies with Zcash. Currently, we've got 33. And we could use this QR code to get some more twosies. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll also do a little test of our Y wallet, which has been overall pretty good, but a few wrinkles here and there over the past few days. So go ahead and let's copy that address. Yeah, open the Y wallet. It's taking a little time, so there it goes. All right, you can still see that on the screen. All right, great. So we've got our Y wallet. So as you see, that's the address. And you've got a really cool thing down here in the subject. It's telling us exactly what the intent is, right? So it's saying, hey, let's buy some twosies, right? And then it's telling us, therefore, I am Snoopy fan, okay? So yeah, let's go ahead and send that. Okay, privacy's high.
Good.
Send that. Okay, payment in progress. All right, we'll let it do that. Let's go back to what we were doing. All right, there we go. So that's successful. There's our transaction ID. Got that nice satisfying ching ching sound going on. So thank you, Han. Your Y wallet seems to be working smoothly today. We are happy. Let's go back to where we were. All right, go ahead and you can go to done. And let's go ahead and make a new page. Tap on the done. So go back up to the nice green new page button. Okay, great. So, all right, folks. So what do you think? What do we want to have a page about today?
Like write about? Yeah. Oh yeah. Can we write it about?
Maybe another puppy story?
Yeah, when we first got Cholo.
Sure.
The yellow fever epidemic of 1973.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe we'll keep it a little lighter than yellow fever.
1793. I got the date.
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. Maybe we'll keep it a little lighter than yellow fever. So let's have a story about a puppy. So we can give it a title. You can give it the title. And let's do fun with
Cholo.
Yeah, Cholu. CHOUL. OLU. Yeah, Cholu.
CHOLU.
There you go. Perfect. And now we've got something really cool here. As you see, can you tell us about the featured image, what that is?
The featured image is where you can upload a banner for your Z page.
Great. All right, so let's go ahead and upload something for that. Now, if you go over to downloads real quick, you got, okay, see where it says Cholu?
Yeah, that one.
Let's try that. There it goes.
This is it.
Got a little puppy going on. All right, let's look at categories. Let's see if there's some relevant categories. So what are categories?
Names.
Yeah. So there's some names basically about the page. So, well, she's definitely a pet, right? Let's see if there's a pet category. Okay, great. Let's do that. That's a good one. All right, now tell us about this box here. What is this box?
This box is where you can explain, it's where you put the content of your Z page, which includes the markdown embedded videos and titles and anything else you want, like bolded lists and links.
Great. And so back to the markdown thing. What is the markdown and how can we use that here?
Well, you could first, you can make a title.
That's great. So that one hash there, the 1 pound, that's for a title. That makes sense. Fun with Cholo. Okay, great. And now let's go ahead and start writing the story. Now, remember, the cool thing about FreeDZ is we also have AI built into this. So
Can make it
yeah.
better.
So yeah, basically AI can help us write the story, right? So we can start with some prompts, and then AI will start to help us do some stuff. So let's go ahead. You can go to new line, and let's you can press enter, yeah. And let's start. Let's give a prompt for our AI. Okay. So tell us about the story. What do you imagine for the story?
Can I just say what happened?
Yeah. Tell us what happened.
Okay. So we had to drive along. This is very far away because we were like closer to
Turn around. Tell everybody here.
we were like closer to the center of Ohio, so we had to go like to the outer of Ohio. So it was a very long trip. I got car sick, but it was worth it because I got to have my Cholo.
Your puppy.
She's super nice, but and so
Let's start there. We're traveling very far away.
So we're traveling very far away, and then
go pick up my puppy.
And so we were there, and we went there, and we got and we were looking at all the dogs. There's like a bunch of puppies, which they were all adorable. There's one that his name was Ryan. It was Cholo's brother. But he was.
Well, and let's slow down. So let's start with that. We were traveling a very far away to pick up a puppy. And so what you can do is go ahead and show us one of the AI buttons. All right, maybe for text. Yeah. So now this thing, we can give it the prompt. So we can ask GPT to tell us, to give us some advice. So we could say something like write a story about how when we were traveling very far away to pick up a new puppy, right? Or you can start off saying, I'm a kid. I'm a kid. Write a story about, I'm a kid. So that it knows that we're a kid. There you go. I'm a kid. I am a kid. Yeah, that's fine. I'm a kid. Write a story about when. Yeah, good. Let's go ahead and get some help. So now this is getting a little AI support. It's thinking. And there it goes, like magic. Okay, it's giving us a little help here. Now, obviously, we want to keep editing, so let's take a look at this. Can you read a little bit this story for us?
Okay, so we were traveling very far away to pick up a puppy. Once upon a time, there was a family who had always dreamed of owning a puppy. After months of searching, they finally found the perfect pup for their family. But the pup was far away, so the family decided to take a long road trip to pick up their new furry friend. The family packed up the car with snacks, drinks, and games for the long drive ahead. They drove for what felt like days, but eventually they arrived at their destination. When they got there, the family was so excited to meet their new pup, they were in love at first sight.
Okay, that's good. Now, okay, one more thing. So let's do some images here. How's that sound? So we've got a pretty decent story. Obviously, we would want to spend more time editing it, adding more stuff, but this is a good start. So can we make some AI images out of this? What do you think?
Sure.
Yeah. So what do you want to write a new prompt for it, or you just want to? Oh wow, we're getting fancy.
Yeah,
I see that's the time in the art museum's paying off. So
yeah,
some
when you
impressionistic painting.
Yeah, when you do new images, like sometimes impressionistic is more clear.
I love it. So FreeDZ is going to be doing some impressionistic painting here, in keeping with our Barcelona location. All right, so you just highlighted and selected that. All right, let's get an AI image. Go ahead. Tap the button. Okay. Now, we can't see it right here, but it clearly has done it. Now, if you know Markdown, you'll see that this is making the embed for us. So can you scroll down a little bit? Now, this is really awesome. So I don't know about you. I'm afraid of losing this story. So what do you think of if we save it real quick? Can you go up and save it? Yeah? All right. Now let's take a look at our current, how it's going, okay?
Daddy.
Yeah, what's up?
Why could we not write what type of dog Cholo is?
Oh yeah, well, we can get into that kind of detail later, right?
Okay.
But for now, we're just showing people how to use FreeDZ. So go ahead to view. There it is. Let's see the impressionistic painting. I'm excited about this. Oh, wow. That's actually pretty good. That's pretty close. I love it. Okay. Now there's a lot of fun stuff we can do here. Can we take a look at that little icon? Yeah. Let's show folks. Okay. So if you kind of walk us through these, what's going on here?
So this is when you're viewing your own Z page and you want to go back to the editing page for it.
Cool.
So this is promote, like you can donate to Z's and Zcash, or you can donate Zcash to the page. And this button is to share it on some social platforms. And this one, make a comment. It's when you can make a comment with two Z's or Zcash.
Yeah, you want to make a comment real quick? I think the commenting
sure.
is super powerful, so we can kind of show that a little bit. Although we're getting close to the end of our time here, but yeah, I don't know if Skylar wants to go into this at all, but like the threaded comments, that's hot. That's some fancy tech here. So it's extremely powerful in FreeDZ, and you can have just multiple layers of comments and going back and forth, and it all stays very nicely threaded and organized. So makes it easy to have conversations. Yes.
Yeah, and they're addressable is one of my favorite things.
Right.
And yeah, you can have code with highlights, and you can have LaTeX. There's like several pretty cool features. So we have that all documented. We call it FreeDZ flavored Markdown. So it has most of GitHub flavored, not all, but we'll probably add some more. But it also has the embeds, and LaTeX. It's kind of in that placeholder text is kind of a little overview of different stuff you can do. You can upload images. Soon you'll be able to select your previously uploaded images. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Should give notifications when someone replies to you, and you can, kind of have a conversation in threaded comments. And so yeah, it's kind of like Hacker News or Reddit in some ways, but I don't think they have LaTeX. So for super nerds, that's pretty cool.
Sweet. Okay, so show us, throw some extra twosies in there because we really care about this comment. There you go. We're going to spend some 10 twosies. Go ahead and comment. Boom. And scroll down to show it. There it is. We love this puppy. Yeah, I certainly love this puppy, so that's exciting. We actually need to leave a couple minutes for questions, so I think that's going to be it for the demo. So,
so what about the profile, though?
Oh, yeah. All right, let's go back to the profile.
Placeholder image.
Really quick. All right, go up to the profile. Let's take a look.
Is this public?
And let's publish the page. Yeah, we can publish the page. Go down, scroll down. And as you see, this is our profile. Here, we need to spend more time fleshing this out. But as you see, we've got kind of a placeholder image up into the left. So we can change that up real quick. Go up, and let's add an image for that.
All right.
go ahead and we're going to update our profile, and let's add an avatar. Okay, to the left, and that upload button.
Or you could select the puppy if you want.
Great.
To.
Let's do
Cholo, yeah.
Cholo.
Yeah.
We already have that one, so.
All right, we'll switch it out. Switch.
It works. It's.
Yeah, go to CryptoBella. There you go. Double click.
Oh, is that my footage? Yeah, is that the photo I made?
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, yay.
All right.
That's good.
And now we can also put
Yeah.
a banner.
Yeah, add a banner real quick. You can use the gray and grass. Yeah, that works. Open that.
Okay.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay, we can go ahead and update that. All right, and now before we finish here and take questions, let's go and publish that story.
What's the member price though?
Oh yeah, the member price right here. This is important. So to be able to do live streams, you need to have a minimum of 10 choosies set here. This basically
let's make
allows you to tell, what does the member price do?
So member price, basically, it's the amount of money you want people to pay to see your exclusive content.
What is
The number
it,
of
money
credits.
or what is
Credits.
Yeah, our twosies, it's our internal credit. That's our Chuck E. Cheese token, right? Just for fun. It's not real money. Go up to
So
10.
we're gonna go up to 10.
Yeah.
And how often does it pay, or like, so if I subscribe, like what's the deal with that?
So basically, we'll be paying like the amount of twosies, I think, once a month
Exactly right.
to see.
Months are like different lengths though. It's 30 days.
Yeah, it's
Trick
30
question.
days. Yeah. All right. Go ahead and let's publish that. Hit that save button. And that we check the publish link right there. So this is now should be live. So you can go to the home link and let's see if it's there. There it is.
There it is, right here.
Top of the stack. That's our new site, our new page we created.
What about the peer-to-peer address? Like, can I give Zcash to you now?
Yeah, totally. Let's take. Can you show the peer-to-peer real quick? Yeah, that's it. So right now, if you click on that, right now it's going to open your Y wallet. Now we're on our own site, so that's not a good example. But like, let's say I wanted to donate to somebody else, it's automatically going to open up your Y wallet if you have it installed, and just makes it super easy to donate directly to them.
Well, here it says donate to F to Z to boost this page.
We're on the boost. Yeah, the boost. So let's donate to the creator directly. So this thing will boost the page to make it more visible, right? But we can also donate to the creator if you want to support them. So go ahead. So you got a fund creator button right there, as you see, and that allows us to either give our internal token twosies, or we can donate to Zcash. Go ahead and hit that. Yeah. And we can donate anonymously or.
Well, so this is your own page. It should say. It used to say, "Don't donate to yourself, silly," but I don't know. I guess we had a regression, so it said error. But don't donate to yourself, silly, is what it should say. So not silly, something a little bit less, funny, but not too funny.
There we go. So we're on somebody else, right? So here, that's Amina G's Z address right here. So I can go ahead and tap there.
Well, so what happened to the twosies that you bought? Like, what's your twosie balance?
The twosie balance should be, there it is.
Oh, so
so the twosie balance went up a ton because we just purchased twosies.
Can you, I think there's a little detail that the WebSocket connection doesn't get instantiated when you first create. So can you reload the page for me?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious here, because it should be that when I hit this button here, let's see. Oh, what just happened?
Yeah.
What's this little thing in the left there? What's that all about? Or yeah, the bottom left.
All right, there you go. You received 10 twosies from Anonymous. Yeah.
So wait a second.
Okay, we can take a look at that later.
Why are you Xing it out though? I mean, what is it? Do you know what happened?
The Anonymous link?
Oh.
No, this is
Yeah.
just our notifications. So it's giving us all these notifications that are happening on the site right now.
Right, but are you not interested in them?
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's just through everything that's going on. So new comments, Tuesdays. Oh, wait a minute.
You're just going to exit
Skylar
out. You're like, leave me alone.
Skylar is getting us. We're
Like,
getting all
what
kinds
is
of.
this, though?
We're getting all kinds of Tuesday love right now from Skylar. We're getting donated.
Like, is this
left
just
and
an
right. Oh man,
annoyance, or?
Wait.
100 Tuesday from anonymous. This is crazy. Yeah, I wonder. It's just coming. It's coming from all over the place.
But what is it? Aren't you kind of curious what that little triangle though is? Like,
Go ahead.
Why don't you hit the?
Show us the triangle.
You're like X X X. So is the X more attractive than the triangle? I don't know. Like,
Go to the triangle. Yeah.
what's the little honeycomb that appeared in the top right? Like, what's that all about?
It keeps doing. Just go do it again. There it goes. All right, there we go. We got our dashboard. We're seeing all the notifications coming in. So that's it. Wow, we got 100 Tuesdays from anonymous. I just have no idea who that could have been.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
it's happening.
There's a few people. Could have been.
But we're getting a lot of love. Hey, from
who are
Brende,
these people?
Roldmar.
Like, what are these?
This is our audience. Oh man, this page is just getting love from all around the world. So
nice.
That's awesome, and it's all coming in real time. Pretty sweet. Gotta love WebSockets. Whoop. Techno. Papapi. Aurabrito. Okay. So yeah, I think probably time for questions. But yeah, oh man, this thing is blowing up right now, as you can see. So loving it. Thank you, Zcash audience.
You never like clicked on the
Free to see
honeycomb
community.
before then? That's like, wow. Most sites will.
Okay,
have
kids.
have
Well,
a bell.
you're officially rich with this page now.
Why is it not a bell though?
Right?
Why is it a honeycomb instead of a bell? Wouldn't a bell be just like every other site in the world? Like why would?
Yeah. Well, that's all you. I actually think bells are fine. Some people don't like bells.
Like when there was this like famous scientist who did this experiment about like, ringing bells.
Right. Yeah.
And
It's
he,
not Pavlov's dogs. None of that here.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we don't like bells. All right. Questions from the audience.
Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah.
You have to get uncomfortably close. It's like too loud, so I want to get like quieter and quieter. Uncomfortably loud.
Okay, that was great. Very fun. Do you guys consider like having a wallet inside the application?
Well, so yeah, I think that would be a good idea. But we need WASM because we're pretty dedicated to like single code base and web first. Yeah, I mean, if we'd have to kind of grow the team to, well, we'll see. But like inside the application, we do want to support web as first class, so we don't really want to do an Android, iOS, native. So without, yeah, I mean, there's details there, but basically we really want to see WebAssembly, and we want to see Zcash wallets support web, as a compilation target first class. But that is a very kind of hard problem because like LibRust Zcash has all kinds of non-WASM dependencies and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it would be fun to be able to just be like, oh yeah, create my new address and be able to receive funds right in the app. We could, look at the new ECC SDK or, WarpSync, YWallet, Z-Wallet, and, maybe embrace the native. So that would be an option, but then, so then we have to kind of maintain the web because you can actually do kind of a lot without even logging in. And we want to kind of maintain that where you can just share a link and people can just, read your stuff or, donate Zcash without even logging in or downloading an app. So we don't want to lose that. So, there's like trade-offs like with everything. But yeah.
So the 2C, is that the value the same as 1 sec or how that works?
Well, right now, I think legally and under the current framework, it's a Chuck E. Cheese token that only has value to. So, if you upvote, if you comment, you can subscribe. And right now, there's no way to redeem. But we're looking at the legal framework for how we, could it be a ZSA? Could we redeem it for Zcash? So if you get a certain balance. Because ultimately, if famous YouTuber is getting censored, they don't want in-app credits, and they might not even necessarily want Zcash. They want to make their bank account go up or whatever it is they're motivated. So, but yeah, we do want a way that the subscriptions can turn into kind of fungible currency, outside of the site, and so different people could have subscribers, yeah, and pay their mortgage or whatever. But yeah, any other questions?
Yeah, I think we had a question down here as well.
Yeah, you gotta have the mic.
Oh, bring the mic. There you go.
This question is gonna be in Spanish. Okay. ¿Cómo se prepararon para esta presentación? ¿Cuánto tiempo les tomó hacer esta presentación para los younger speakers? I'm asking, how did you prepare this beautiful presentation?
You can answer. Go ahead.
We were practicing.
Yeah.
And practice our words with. Yeah, basically we did a lot this morning and a lot last night.
Yeah.
We were just like rehearsing our words and stuff, and my dad basically explained everything. He talked through it. Yeah, that was basically it.
So I have a question for you too. So for all of you, do you think that the site's pretty easy to use as a kid? Do you understand it pretty well?
Yeah, it's
Yeah?
like 100 times easier than any social media app.
Let's do it in the mic, yeah.
And what is the advantage of using free to see versus another social media in terms of security for kids?
Yeah, I can take that one. So there's a huge advantage for using free to Z versus other social media
Twitter,
for children.
Snapchat,
So we really respect users' privacy. So we're not trying to make a profile. Like if there's a child on the site, we're not trying to make a profile of them. We're not going to be selling their data. So it's like in terms of the user security, it's way better. The privacy is better. I mean, even the fact that you're monetizing with Zcash, that's privacy enhanced. So that's a big benefit. And yeah, I mean, in this case, I think you'll see as we continue to develop out this application, a lot of stuff you will have to pay for in some sense. But the advantage there is that that there's no such thing as a free lunch. So if everything's free, it's because you're the product. So at least here you have more control over what's going on. So.
In your opinion, kids, what time a person needs to learn all about free to see? How many time?
I'd say a person who wants to post or something online, but wants it to be more private. So, more private than just showing the whole face, instead of Twitter or YouTube. Free to Z is much more private on that sense, so it's more friendly for children.
Hola a todos, voy a hacer mi pregunta en español. Jonathan, me gustaría saber, en el caso de América Latina particularmente, ¿cómo han visto que Free2C ha sido una solución para la gente que está generando contenido allí?
Okay.
En español.
¿Una solución para qué? Sí, es que lo que nosotros vemos con las personas de América Latina es el aspecto de la comunidad lo veo más importante para las personas de América Latina. Y aquí en Free2Z ya se está creciendo una comunidad. Es como, y siento que es un ambiente muy cálido, muy positivo. No ves haters, no hay tantos, digamos, trolls o personas que quieren bajar a los demás. Entonces, hasta la fecha, yo estoy muy contento con ese aspecto de cómo las personas se están apoyando mutuamente y están generando contenidos y todos están muy en el bochinche, ¿no? Ahí, de
now
estar
Portuguese.
apoyando. No
Then
falo portugués.
Summarize. So
This is
what
kind of
was
Portuguese.
summarized in English though for us?
Yeah. So the question was how the people in Latin America have been using the site and whether they find it relevant. And what we found is that there's a ton of traction in Latin America. And one of the reasons we think that is happening is because there is more of an emphasis on community building in Latin America and maybe than other places in the world. So the fact that the Free2Z community is so supportive and so positive, and like we really haven't had any issues with trolls or any kind. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a few people here and there, but in general, the community is so much more positive than you'll find, in pretty much any other corner of the internet. So I think that's what's been so attractive to Latin Americans, and that's why that's been, really a big base of our community at Free2Z. So. I think, yeah, there you go. Question?
So, oh, that's loud. How do you prevent like stalkers and inappropriate people from interacting with children on the site?
That is a great question.
Yeah, so it's a good question, but so how could you contact? You could use the comments, which are public to the world. You could message with an encrypted Zcash memo if the kid had a Zcash wallet address. But I mean, I guess you could do something over that, but you'd kind of have to go to a third-party site or like some sort of other messaging thing. As of right now, yeah, it's kind of a moving target, but we do have kind of the magic of centralization, so we can see all the uploads, and we can, so we have like a bot that monitors the comments, and there's some really obvious spam in terms of, like, call me on WhatsApp, I'll show you how to get your money back from something and blah, blah, blah. Or what, they're like pretty easy to spot. So we have an AI that will strike the comment and it's like 3 strikes, you're out, which has only happened a few times, but I thought it would be fun. And then actually, if you comment, as long as I had that like event listener, I made it so that if you make a good comment according to the AI, that's like interesting and uses a bunch of markdown features. I forget what the prompt is, but it'll give you up to 5 of these little credits so you can make more comments. And the twosies, right now, they're kind of like a web of trust and like a granular invite code, which is kind of cool. So, it's centralized and it's not private, these little credits. But, it's like a friend of a friend. You give more to people who you really like, who are good people. So they give it to their friends who, so, yeah, I've been really kind of worried about malicious actors, and we've kind of built these mechanisms. It's an experiment, to be honest, but they've worked pretty well so far. So it will be a moving target, and kind of the same with financial compliance and stuff like that. It's like you're never kind of done with that kind of stuff. So as problems arise, we have a very iterative approach in general, and the same thing with preventing abuse, fraud, spam, malicious actors, there's all kinds of potential problems, and it could be a good problem to have if there's just like tons of people and, we need to figure out who needs to be, demoted. But yeah, it's not it's not permissionless in that sense, and we are like a U.S. corporation, and so we have some sort of like due diligence and responsibility that we have to do, and yeah, we take that kind of stuff seriously. So we'll see. I think it hasn't become a problem yet. We are thinking about direct encrypted messaging, which would add another like surface area of that kind of problem. But kind of we just say you have to have twosies. So you have to have Zcash, you have to know somebody. So, you know, you get a little to like, you can make a couple of comments at first, but you don't get access to all the features unless someone like gives you the access. Now, if you bought Zcash, I mean, for a couple of Zcash, you could put something very terrible at the top of the homepage or something, and you know, I mean, try it and see what happens. You know, I think you know in that case at this scale that we'd take your Zcash and it'd be like, oh, that's terrible, and you know, maybe it would get censored. You know, like we want to. I mean, if it was just something bad or like you know bad, but it's not illegal, we're committed to free speech. So you know, knock yourself out, I guess. But we can also deboost it, downvote it. But it's like we can publish that algorithm. Like I'll just, you know, down, and it'll, you know, kind of go off the page. So if you want to, if someone wanted to fight that fight, anyway, there's a lot of like surface area for kind of malicious actors. But so far so good. So we'll keep on it, I think.
So essentially, it sort of just becomes prohibitively expensive to try to, you know, go against.
That's kind of the idea, yeah. Because everything costs money, and we want it to be like you don't notice because it's just like you know micro, like super micro, like
Small amount.
penny.
Mhm.
But for a spammer, 50 cents is a lot.
Mhm.
You know, when they're sending out 100,000 emails for free to get one hit, if it's a penny per comment, that's too expensive for most like scams and stuff. So far so good.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Great.
Yeah, and thanks, kids. All right. Woo! Let's go.
Okay, our next speaker is Ryan Taylor, and he's going to talk about the Zcash Foundation Audiovisual Club and how it empowers and amplifies the Zcash community. Please welcome Ryan.
Thank you all for being here. You know, I've live streamed but somewhere between 400 and 500 presentations just like this one over the course of 9 years. And when I sat down to do this, I had no idea where to start. I'm like a total noob when it comes to being on stage. And this is actually my 5th Zcon and the first one where I'm doing a presentation like this. So we'll see how it goes. Where do I point this? There? We'll see how it goes. No? Nothing. Okay. So the Zcash Foundation Audiovisual Club, which is what I'm talking about, was created by, well, I'll get into it. So, sorry. Whoa. When I was thinking about where to start telling this story about the ZFAV Club, I thought back to when I started live streaming, and I started live streaming tech events, was at the San Francisco Bitcoin meetup. And this one specific talk that I streamed back in 2015 came to mind, and that was Private Transactions in a Public Blockchain, presented by Nate Wilcox on April 28th, 2015. And this picture of me sitting on the floor on the right is actually the same event that you see on the top picture, the one of Nathan. There is a picture of both of us and me standing behind the camera and Nate presenting. I couldn't find the picture. I know who has it. It was a mutual friend of Nate and mine. If you're watching, I would love to have a copy of that. But this was the same event, and that was 8 years ago. And then as I was looking through my YouTube channel, I discovered that my very AgiLeak was my personal YouTube channel that I was streaming a lot of this stuff on. And the very first video that I live streamed on my personal channel had Paul Pui in the thumbnail, and he was presenting on Bitcoin wallets. And Paul also presented at Zcon this year. So then I was thinking like that would really be the beginning of Zcash Foundation Audiovisual Club. It was me voluntarily live streaming these Bitcoin events, these decentralized technology events, privacy and security and all this stuff that we do here. And then I was working for Electric Coin Company in 2017, and when Zcon4 was being organized, it was really easy for the foundation to reach out to me and ask if I would live stream their event for them. So this was in June 2018. Josh Cincinnati was the chair or the director of the Zcash Foundation at that time, gave the opening address. I also found a live stream with Josh Cincinnati from the San Francisco Bitcoin meetup that we did in 2018. So was that 2018? No, it was 2015 that we live streamed Josh Cincinnati. So all of these Zcashers were in front of my camera while I was streaming events just like this, and I was doing most of it myself. And eventually, just last September, I had this idea to create a space and create a club where other people who are interested in audiovisual content creation, who are Zcashers, could join me, and we could collaborate, and I can learn from all of you, and we can create amazing content, and we can decentralize the work effort that goes into it. I see Guy Fawkes just entered the room. So it was actually, and I want to do a special shout out to Dan, Decentralist Dan, because, yeah, give it up. Not only because he's amazing, but also because it was a conversation that I had with him at Zcon4 in Vegas that really led me to this idea of creating this club and creating this space for audiovisual content creators in Zcash. So September 27th, 2022, I pitched the AV Club idea to the Zcash Foundation, and they said yes, and it was amazing. And then from there, we launched in January. So several months of setup, brainstorming, figuring out what the club was. When we launched, when we announced it on the 12th of January this year, I still didn't really know what the club was going to be because it's just me at this point, really, and Dan. And it's a club, so it's about the people in the club, the people that are building the community, the people who are building the content. And so it's, for me, it wasn't about what I want the club to be. And in January, it was still unclear to me how it would pan out. So we launched on Free to Z, ZFAV Club on Free to Z, and I was using this as the hub for all of the club information. So if you go there, you can read our club manifesto that I published at the time. The code of conduct is on there, and I'm posting our meetup videos and all that too. We also have a Discord server as the main community gathering center where we have regular community calls, regular workshops, and Zero Darts actually put an AI in there that you can use for free through Discord to create images, still images. We also have Twitter, Mastodon on zeal.center. You do most of our live streaming on YouTube as well as Free to Z, and we have an Instagram account too. So I'll get into what we publish on all of these platforms later on. I launched all of this when we launched the club back in January, and I use the Zcash community forum a lot too. I have a new topic on there about the Zcash Foundation Audiovisual Club, and you can see all of the work that we've done. I post it there so that I have a solid historical collection of all of it. The first real deliverable that I wanted the community to have, that I wanted the club to have, was the monthly meetups. And this was a real simple thing to just plan for 1 hour every month where we get together and we talk about not necessarily Zcash, but we talk about audiovisual content creation tools, platforms, and I'll get more into the details of what each meetup was about. The first one was me kind of I basically reached out to my friends who I know from the Zcash community and said, hey, can you join us? And we'll talk about where the audiovisual community in Zcash stands today. This was back in January, and where we could go from there. So I published this first meetup video, and then YouTube closed the YouTube account. They just deleted the channel on the 29th. It was like the day after I think I published the video. And I thought that was hilarious because my own YouTube channel, which is designed the exact same way, had been running for 8 years, and I'd published 300, 400 videos on there without a word from YouTube. So they closed it without any reason, without any explanation, and I complained to them on Twitter, and we got it back up. So that was the first month, and then at this point, a lot of what I was trying to do was to create projects that would maybe motivate or inspire content creators in Zcash to get involved. And the monthly meetup was part of that. The consistency of having something once a month. We turned that into we also have weekly workshops, and we have weekly meetings as well. So we have consistent space held for people who are interested to come and talk to us, to work on things, to hack on things. And that was a really important part of the beginning of the club. One of the projects that I was personally working on to inspire and motivate some content creators is what I call Zcon highlights. There are before Zcon4, there were about 130 Zcon presentations that are long format presentations just like this. They're all on the Zcash Foundation channel, and I shot most of them personally, but this content is available and can be cut, edited, and turned into a short format video that's so popular now. So that was what I started doing with Zcon0, and I released, I believe, 8 of them. It's considered low-hanging fruit. I've seen in the forums it's mentioned as that because the content is there. So if you want to practice using video editing tools or publishing, for example, the content is there. You can download it, you can cut it up, upload it to the different platforms. And it was an exploratory process for me, and publishing especially, because I always did live streaming. I never worried too much about the video descriptions. A lot of times I'm live streaming something I don't understand. We're talking about zero knowledge proofs here, right? So So learning how to properly do the descriptions, all the tags, how to use YouTube and in the SEO sense, that was really where a lot of my first practice went with the Zcon Highlights project. And I was publishing those on YouTube and on Twitter, and then kind of learned about the popularity of the vertical videos and the shorts and the TikTok style Instagram Reels, all of this. And then I kind of went back through the Zcon videos that I had released, the Zcon highlights, and re-edited them so that they were in this vertical format. Something I learned from that is that short vertical videos are hot. That you don't even need to share the link to a YouTube short. And like I was posting the horizontal regular videos, the normal aspect ratio videos on Twitter, and I was sharing these links around. When I published the shorts on YouTube, because of the way that the feed works with shorts, I was getting hundreds of views without even telling anyone that I was publishing it. And this is all because of the words in the description, the tags that you use. When people look at YouTube on their phone, they're fed videos that fit the rest of the stuff that they watch. So by making that connection to the short via the description and the tags, this content is being shown to people without me even needing to tell anyone that it's out there. And I thought that was pretty incredible. Part of that process was discovering CapCut, which is awesome software. The free version works really well and I haven't run into too many limitations with it. So Squirrel actually told me about that, and it's great software. It's really easy to use. The barrier to entry is really low. The best thing that I find about it is for short videos, for short vertical videos, it does excellent job with the transcripts, with the transcribing, with the text that you see here. These are both screenshots from Zcon4, and the most secure Zcash transaction that I've ever made, and then Sean talking about the performance increases that they made with Sapling. So there's another piece of software, some AI called Opus Clip, and that's opus.pro is the website. And this is really cool AI software that you can actually put long format videos into, and it will suggest short clips that you can get from it. It will cut it for you and then explain to you why it thinks that this is a good clip to have from the video. And I believe it's still free. You can check out the website, and you can even upload an entire day stream from Zcon4 and check it out and see what it gives you back. Share that stuff. This is the process that the Zcon highlights took, and it was grueling. It was difficult for me to go through and doing all the research. But now I have a lot of this information. We're sharing it in the Discord, and we're hopefully have a wiki where we can condense this information. And now the Zcon highlights should be the low-hanging fruit that's talked about in the forum. Whereas initially, especially if you're not a video editor, it's not really that low-hanging. You know, it's a lot of work, and especially like the publishing practices and things I was talking about. The other project that I was pushing for and trying to use as a motivating project and an inspiration is one that I made several years ago called Zcash Zeitgeist. And this is it's a short, fun video that I did while working at ECC. And I would like to continue that moving forward. The video that I made, it says it's episode 1, and I never made an episode 2. I think this is a really good opportunity for the club and for people in the club to tell their personal privacy story in the context of Zcash. So check out that video, and if it inspires you or reminds you of your personal privacy story or the privacy story and why Zcash is important in your community, then I would like to take those stories and transform it into this universe called Zcash Zeitgeist. I did a Zcash Foundation minor grants proposal for this, and I think it was short by 1 or 2 votes before of getting approved, which is totally fine with me. It was just an idea that we could get some funds to pay to the community that would be doing the writing and the editing and all the work that I was previously doing myself. And so that was not approved, but it gives us the opportunity to now do this on Free2Z, for example, and we can do it as a collaborative process there and do the crowdfunding through Free2Z as well. So I'd like to see that move forward. The top right picture, the ZFAV Club workshop, this was a flyer that Zero Darts designed, and I really like it. It actually came out of another project that we were working on for Zcon4 that I'll get to in 1 second. And the bottom right picture is the Zcash Zeitgeist poster, and that Zcash coin is the Zcash Zeitgeist logo, which I created as well. So I was working on all of these projects just to kind of discover and motivate and inspire. And it was very clear at the beginning of the AV Club that if we want to build a community, a global community, and connect these international Zcash communities, human languages is the most important thing. This is how we communicate. This is how we collaborate. And this was at the same time that Zcash Brazil was organizing their Zcon Voices event, which was all in Portuguese. Just before Zcon Voices, John actually was playing with some software to be able to do automatic transcriptions and translations of live events. You can do it with any audio, really, and we pipe it through. He was using Google Translate, and you have the transcription show up on one side, and then it does the translation. John was working on this before Zcon Voices, and then we ended up using it there so that the non-Portuguese speaking audience could sort of get a grip on what was happening and what was going on. Then it became pretty clear that we should be doing this with all of our English content, because there's uncountable amounts of communities that can't understand what we're talking about when we're speaking English at Zcons. These 130 videos that we have on the Zcash Foundation channel, they're all in English. Well, not anymore because Zcon Voices, but the Zcon content is mostly in English, and this is a huge disservice, I think, and it's really hurting Zcash and the growth of Zcash and the communities and the individuals involved. So we were working on this, we were hacking on this in the AV Club, trying to figure out what the best solution for languages were and how we can use this technology, who can use this technology to help share and connect. We did a behind-the-scenes retro of Zcon Voices during the 3rd ZFAV meetup, and that was really great. Dan did a walkthrough of how the tech worked, and he and Vito had done the actual live stream. And this was amazing for me to watch because Dan and I were working together for like 2.5 months at this point on the AV Club, and I was like teaching him how to use OBS, and then we ordered all of the equipment so that he had the same sort of kit, the same sort of gear that I use to live stream that's very portable. I always wanted a film studio in my backpack, was always my thing, with like ways to get it out to the internet. So Dan goes down to Brazil with all of this equipment and a sort of overview of how OBS works. And let me tell you, live production very rarely goes the way you expect. So I'm thinking that I'm going to be troubleshooting, and I was there with him online, but I wasn't able to go to Brazil. And then he gets down to Brazil, meets Vito, and puts Vito behind the camera. And now we have this team doing something they've never done before without me, who has done it a bunch before, and I'm just online trying to help them through things. It was amazing. It worked really well. And now we have 2 activated, very active members of the ZFAV Club, active members of Zcash, who are applying their skills, they're empowered, and they're amplifying the Zcash message through skills that we're learning together. And that was a really great feeling. So then the 4th ZFAV meetup, we focused on the podcasters in Zcash. And we had Zcash en Español. It was co-hosting with me. Yoda Todd was co-hosting. We had Zcast. Aura and Roosevelt came on. Awesome rock stars right there. They came on, and we had a chance to use our translation tools, this process that we had built, that we had discovered. We had a chance to use that in a multilingual podcast. I do speak Spanish, but it's really rusty. But luckily, we had the English transcription going and the Spanish translation going, So when we were speaking in English, they could understand roughly. We were using Google Translate at the time, so they could understand roughly what was going on. And then we switched the translator so that when they were speaking, it was the Spanish that was being transcribed, and it was being translated into English. It was a really cool demo, and it worked, and it was a live test. I'm all about doing it live. Let's see what breaks, and then we'll figure out how to fix it, and that's how we learn, and that's how we get better. So during this podcast, we had the live translations between 3 languages because, again, Vito was doing translations into Portuguese. This was a really cool experience, and it didn't work perfectly, but something that came out of it was I was also, again, with the Zcon highlights stuff, when it came to live translations, when it came to the process of creating good subtitles, now I had a video that was in 2 different languages, and I had to create good subtitles for it and then translations for it. So now we published the video, and it's got solid English subtitles through the whole thing, solid Spanish subtitles through the whole thing, and solid Portuguese subtitles through the whole thing. And I used CapCut to do this, and I'll be documenting this whole process so the rest of the community can use it as well. We've really done a good job of automating the translation and transcription and this communication of human languages. I'm gonna run out of time. So we'll move a little bit forward. But before we do that, the Zcon4 promo videos that were created by our Russian ambassador, Artkor, he shared the project files with us in the Discord. Vrabmar jumped in real quick, and we translated the Russian video into 9 different languages. And then we had the Zcash ambassadors check the translations to make sure they were accurate. And we put those I gave those to Vrabmar, and he put them into After Effects with the project files that Artkor had given him. And we had that translated accurately, and we had the translations checked and released the videos in about 5 days from the point where Artkor released his. And it was all done by the community. It was a community effort. It was shared, and it was pretty amazing. So if you haven't seen that, check out our YouTube page. You can find all of the 9 there, and then the original Russian is on the Pro Zcash YouTube page. So more about Vrabmar, my personal hero for Zcon4. See, during the Zcast podcast where we were doing these different languages, Vrabmar, he's an OBS pro, video editing pro, and he saw this and he took it to the next level. He saw that Google wasn't working. We found other software that does it better. We're using SpeechLogger, and he's doing a broadcast of Zcon4 back out in Spanish with awesome subtitles. It doesn't look like that picture there. This was from a demo that we were doing, and I was going to change that picture today, but didn't. But his translation broadcast is really, really great, and he's been doing that all week. We did talk shows here, and we did talk shows in Spanish and in English, and he was doing the translation and the rebroadcast of all of that. And then he also designed these promotional graphics that we have. He's been designing promotional graphics for ZecHub, for ZFAV, and these different cards that you see. And all of this, he actually needed to buy a whole bunch of new equipment to do it. And he crowdfunded that through Free2Z, got additional support to close it out and get the extra monitor that he needed with support from Zcash Foundation. So this, to me, was a huge success story that he came into the AV club because he likes AV stuff. He's a Zcasher. He is immediately volunteering his work to do all of this, and he's doing a great job of it. And then he ended up getting the financing he needs in order to do a better product, to do a better live stream. And he's going to be, now I believe that he is going to be empowered to continue working for Zcash, working for the Zcash community, creating audiovisual content. And ultimately, I would love to see that turn into some sort of grant or bounties or something. But for now, crowdfunding through Free2Z works. It's pretty great. Other projects we did for Zcon4. The 5th meetup that we did in May was all about Zcon4. It's my favorite events of the year. Like I said, it's my 5th Zcon, so I wanted to have a chance to give the community the opportunity to ask questions. What are we going to be doing? And we started the planning for the AV Club projects then. Some beautiful brand development came out of this. Ender Arrieta came in, and he's a great brand specialist, and he designed the new colors for the logo and the ZFAV banner. That's all of our branding material that's going to be going out over all of our social profiles. It's out there already. I'm going to speed up a bit. We also have stickers here. We have a ZFAV logo sticker that Vito had printed up, and he brought. Zero Darts brought this Feel Zebra Man and the zebra shields that you've been seeing around. And that was all, again, that was just decentralized. They saw what was happening, and I had no time to do any of this. So they stepped up and took care of it and helped us out. We had our first Zeal Talk, which is a talk show that we did. That was also here 2 days ago, I guess. And it's a process, it's a live talk show where we have a chance to talk about the type of stuff that we talk about in the hallways here at the conference. I wanted to humanize the people on the stage and find out what are your hobbies, this sort of stuff. So we did the first Zeal Talk here at Zcon4. We also we filmed a session of podcasts, a series of podcasts yesterday, and hopefully we'll do it again today. We're calling that Zcon Sessions. And we also live streamed some live music by Johnny Zcash yesterday, which is also on the ZFAV channel. There's a lot of emphasis. I put a lot of emphasis on the grantees and the global ambassadors. I'm really trying to support them. The club is trying to support them. And some of the projects that we've been doing that with, Twitter Space with Zekmek, the 4th meetup was co-hosted with Yorita, our Zcash and Español ambassador. The Zcon4 promo videos, like I said, created by the Russian ambassador. Our 6th meetup was a grants call pilot that I would like to see turned into a regular monthly call where we talk with the grantees and figure out what's working, what doesn't work, how can we help you, how can we support you, and make sure that this is as successful as possible. We had the podcasters, like I mentioned before, the meetup call with the podcasters. We had Joel Valenzuela on a few times, Zcast, Ian Zagstetter, who has created Zec Hub, and then PGP for crypto. Paul Brigner has been very active as well. And then, I've got 3 minutes, okay. And then supporting ZCG recipients with regular feedback. I've been probably giving Skylar too much feedback on Free to Z. I'm sure that he gets DMs from me now, and he's like, oh, Ryan, are you sure this isn't your fault? That's how I feel anyway, and half the time it is my fault. I'm using it wrong. But he's been great. The Free to Z platform and the people building it have been really great, and we've been working a lot with them, trying to. Alpha Day as well, the Alpha Day Zcash dashboard. If you haven't seen it, check that out. If you look for Alpha Day Zcash dashboard, you can find it. And we do regular feedback calls with Mike, who is Alpha Day, the CEO, and really interactive with us and implemented the changes that we suggest. So we have these weekly calls, these weekly meetings and workshops, and it's an opportunity for grantees to talk to us and get feedback from the community that can then make their grant project better. And we do a lot of work with Zec Hub as well. Dismad and Squirrel are both very active, which is excellent. This goes back, so where do we go from here? This is kind of my idea for how we grow the club. Building bridges, connecting communities. I just partnered with Least Authority. So while the Zcash Foundation Audiovisual Club is funded by the Zcash Foundation, we have a partnership now with Least Authority. I'm technically a Least Authority employee, and that's because I believe that Least Authority in that community and the zero knowledge proof community that they work with regularly is very important. And for me, it's almost as important as the Zcash community. So I want to build these bridges, and there we can find more people, more content, more tools, more feedback, more minds to troubleshoot. And then part of that was also the D-Web Camp, which Internet Archive organizes. I went there back in June, did a hands-on workshop called Audiovisual Event Production at Grassroots Media. I want to do more workshops like this, including they have another camp in September in Brazil. And I found out that they did that, and I thought, wow, we have a great Zcash community in Brazil. They're already active in the AV Club. Let's collaborate, work together, and build these bridges. And the next step after that is Zcon4, which will take it to the next level. So last 30 seconds, ZFAV Club has regular activities. All of our activities are at 1700 UTC, trying to have some consistency. The last Thursday of each month is the meetup. We have Tuesday hangouts where we kind of talk about regular meeting stuff, Wednesday workshops, and that's where we break things and then try to fix them and we learn with each other. Then we have a ZFAV wiki on the Zec Hub wiki and a calendar. And again, thanks to Squirrel and Dismad for their work there. It's really great. It's a part of this partnership. We are the Zeal. Find us at ZFAV Club on all of the platforms. Thank you.
We have quite a few questions, and we don't have time for all of them, but I'll ask at least one. Would you like to see summaries of the conferences on social networks and other platforms?
Yes. Short answer is yes, but if I can take one more minute, this goes back to the Zcon Highlights project. So if you're out there and you are you watching any of these talks on YouTube, any of the talks that are being live streamed, and you think, let's summarize this, let's make a short clip, then use Opus Clip, use CapCut, make these clips, help us share this content. We all would really appreciate it, and hopefully that will bring you into the ZFAV Club. If you have any questions, you know where to find us. So yeah, join us. Thanks. You have another one?
I was just notified we have more time for...
Oh, now I get that awkward double goodbye, okay.
For more questions. So the next one is, are there plans to organize another Zcon Voices, and which countries do you have in mind?
So the ZFAV Club is not actually responsible for Zcon Voices. That was the Zcash Foundation that is doing that with collaboration with the ambassadors and some of the global communities. I would love to see another Zcon Voices. I would love to see another one soon. And this is actually something that I would be interested in the AV Club having more of the organizational role and helping to relieve Zcash Foundation of that work. Because Zcon4, for example, was all online, and I was very involved in the whole operation of that because the live streaming was my specialty. It was what I was doing for Zcash Foundation. So when they knew they wanted to do an online Zcon, they came to me, we organized the whole thing, it ran perfectly. And that was when we started using Discord as well to create these rooms for the talks. And Discord has been, for AV Club, Discord has been very important and very helpful. And the same is true for the Zcash Global community. So I think between Zcash Global, Zec Hub, ZFAV, we can actually do some pretty awesome events. And I would like to see that happen in an autonomous, organized way.
If someone is interested in collaborating with the Audiovisual Club, what is the easiest way to get started?
That's a really good question, and it's not something that I necessarily thought about at first. Like, I thought if you build it, they will come. And I started making these little projects to get involved, to inspire people. But then I've actually made a post on the forum, and I believe it's still the pinned tweet on the ZFAV Twitter account, and created basically a list of jobs that go into doing the monthly meetup that we do. It's an online community call, basically. And if you break it down, there are a lot of different specialized jobs that go into the process. I was previously doing this all myself. Dan has been huge as the co-host, as the co-organizer of the club. He's been incredibly helpful with that. But we could realistically have a team of 8 to 10 people helping out with everything from operating the live stream to commenting and doing the moderating, helping us with the translations. There's all of these different jobs that you can come and do. If you want to learn how to do any of this, you can break stuff. This is what we love to do. And so don't be afraid of coming in and saying, hey, I want to learn how to do video editing. I have no idea how to do it. I want to learn how to do OBS. I have no idea how to do it. We do. So come and join us on our Tuesday calls. Come and join us on our weekly workshops. And you can actively, in a live production environment, you can learn the software. And the best way to do it is when you have an event and a group of people that are all collaborating on it, and if it fails, then there's no big deal, because like that's what we do. We have to break things in order to learn how to use them.
And the last question is, could the Audiovisual Club collaborate with Zcash Media in the future?
Yes, I would love that. I would absolutely love that. The goal of the AV Club is to have a space where all of the audiovisual content creators can collaborate and can learn from each other. I have a lot to learn from Zcash Media, and I would really like it if they would join us.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you all.